Chapter 177. Ji Mingyu turned back and looked at Yin Zhika, who was about to start the competition. Her dimples appeared on her cheeks. Ko was in poor health when she was young, so she was spoiled. Unlike me, I was used to being wild with my senior brothers and sisters and learned to lie. When she mentioned that you and her cousin had defeated an 8th Pindan stage fighter by taking turns, she didn't say much, but she couldn't hide the pride, and happiness in her voice. It was even more obvious than when she got the highest score in the exam. My heart skipped a beat. Oh no, my daughter really has a boyfriend. So that's how I got exposed at the beginning. Lu Qing was suddenly enlightened and didn't feel depressed. Instead, he felt a kind of sweetness that made him want to laugh out loud. Knowing Yenjika's attitude and tone when she talked about him from bystanders made him more certain about her feelings for him, making him feel satisfied and happy. With my beloved girl on my side, no matter how terrible my mother-in-law and father-in-law are, I won't be afraid. It's a pity that I didn't see Ka's face and hear her tone. With these key points, if I still can't find out your information, then I've lived half of my life in vain. Ji Mingyu said calmly. I'm here today to give you 2 wishes as Ka's mother, not demands. Auntie, please go ahead. Lu Qing saw that Empress Dowager didn't want to force him and Yin Zhika apart, so he regained his usual calmness, but he was still in awe. The fact that Empress Dowager gave birth to Ku, raised her, and loved her was worthy of his respect. Ji Mingyu turned her head and looked at Lu Qing with a smile. First, before you're sure that you can shoulder Ka's life, don't go too far. Can you do that? Don't go too far. Lu Qing almost didn't understand the meaning of these 4 words. After thinking for a while he realized, Mother-in-law, you're too subtle. I'm not an irresponsible person. I'll work hard to improve myself for Ku, and I won't hurt her. Lu Qing replied to his mother-in-law in a more tactful way. Ji Mingyu nodded. Secondly, I know that when 2 people are together, no matter how much they love each other in the past, they still need to make certain sacrifices in order to complete the run-in. But I hope that you won't let Ka sacrifice her own dreams and her own brilliance for you. Believe me, true love can withstand the test of time and distance. A test of time and distance? Ka's dream and brilliance? Lu Qing was a little confused and didn't quite understand what she meant, but he still said sincerely, Auntie, if it's really Ka's dream, I can only support it with both hands. All right, remember what you said today. Ji Mingyu stood up slowly and commented, it won't be a big problem for Ku to win this game. Okay, I'll leave first. Don't tell Ka that I came. Yes. Suppressed by Empress Dowager's aura, Lu Qing couldn't find any words to say. He could only watch her leave maturely and gracefully. She joined another woman and walked out of hall number 2 along the aisle of the stands. What kind of dream would Ka have? I don't think I've ever asked. Lu Qing retracted his gaze. Seeing Yenjika suppressing Chenjun and using 24 blizzard strikes, he felt a little confused and inexplicable fear. Outside the Songqing Martial Arts Stadium, Ji Mingyu stopped at the entrance. She looked back inside softly. Junior uncle, this was not your original plan. Lu Xiaolan's senses were far better than ordinary people. Although she was not close, she heard the general idea. Ji Mingyu laughed at herself and said, when I saw Ku and that guy walking hand in hand and thinking of her fearful yet stubborn face, I remembered the past and my heart softened. That year, Xioshan train station had been in disrepair for a long time and was in tatters. That year, there was a young girl who came from Jiangnan with only a bag of luggage. When she saw the man she was destined to meet at the station, she didn't cry, nor did she feel wronged. She smiled sweetly and announced, I only have you. Memories kept flashing in her mind. Ji Mingyu's expression softened. She suddenly felt homesick, so she walked to the parking lot and said, Xiaolan, don't tell anyone about this, including your husband. If Ku's father and her grandparents know about this, they will turn the sky upside down. Don't worry, junior uncle. I know what to do. Lu Xiaolan, who was walking beside Ji Mingyu, answered with a smile. That's right. Back then, the old man and old lady doted on their youngest daughter the most. In the end, they were angered and hurt badly. Later on, they projected their feelings onto their more obedient and pitiful granddaughter. If they knew that their precious daughter had been abducted by a wild man when she had just entered university, It was simply unimaginable what would happen. After getting the competition list, Chunjun also looked up Yinjika's information. From his friends in the martial arts circle in Songcheng, he knew that the girl had achieved a small success in meditation, was good at listening skill, could forcibly pull the center of gravity, and had mastered 24 blizzard strikes. Therefore, he was well prepared. But his strength was average. He was not used to changing his fighting style at the last minute in order to avoid Yinjika's listening skill. He kept exposing all kinds of problems. Besides, he had to divert his attention to guard against Yinjika's forcibly pulling the center of gravity, which made him even more restrained. Before long, he was suppressed by 24 blizzard strikes. After only half a round, he couldn't hold on. Thanks to the help of the referee, he avoided being injured and fell off the ring. After this round, Yinjika was much more assured and had a clearer understanding of her strength. She was indeed qualified to reach the level of amateur second pin. The girl was overjoyed. She turned her head to look at the stands, looking for Lu Cheng. When she found that familiar guy and made eye contact with him, for some reason, she felt relieved. She smiled widely and waved her fist. Looking at Yinjika's bright smile, Lu Cheng was both happy and absent-minded. It was like heaven and hell when he faced Empress Dowager's aura just now. Empress Dowager acquiesced to my relationship with Ko? Just a wish, not a request? In an instant he came back to his senses. He felt so excited that his whole body was trembling. Ecstasy surged from the bottom of his heart. Although he didn't know why his mother-in-law had acquiesced, at least he had achieved the initial success and had a good start. I am Ko's above-board boyfriend. He waved his fist in excitement. Yinjika tilted her head and was puzzled. Why is Chung happier and more excited than me? This is only the first round of the ranking event. Whatever, as long as he is happy. And he seems to be happy from the bottom of his heart. He can't help it. Hee. Yinjika left the ring, checked with the competition supervisor and took back her phone. She walked along the aisle and walked briskly to Lu Cheng. Lu Cheng had already walked up to her and wanted to give her a big hug. Yinjika looked around shyly at her boyfriend's open arms. After confirming that no one was watching, she bit her lip and walked quickly to him, letting him hug her. Why are you so happy? Yinjika held back her laughter and asked in a low voice. Lu Cheng had a lot to say and many things he longed to know. But considering that his girlfriend had matches in the afternoon and evening, he forced himself to hold back. I'm just happy that you have a good start. Yinjika laughed and broke free. She flipped her loose hair and looked around guiltily. Then she looked at her boyfriend suspiciously and said, Why do I feel that your smile is not normal? Is this a girl's intuition? Lu Cheng laughed and said, What's not normal? Let's sit over there and wait for Sun Jian and Senior Li Mao. Okay. Yinjika was in a good mood and didn't think too much about her boyfriend's behavior just now. She sat down, took the unscrewed energy drink, and sipped to replenish her water. With her physical strength, even if she only played half of 24 blizzard strikes, it was inevitable that she would be sweating. Because of the perfect timing, they didn't have to wait for long before Sun Jian and Li Mao finished their matches and won their first match. After that, Sun Jian went to wait for Lin Hua. Lu Cheng and the others met up with Guqing, who had already finished her match. They walked to an express hotel 15 minutes away. Songcheng University's new campus was too far away from Songcheng Martial Arts Club, so it was troublesome to go back and forth. According to the usual practice, they booked rooms in advance for each match to rest and recover as much as possible. Of course, if they had enough time after the third match in the evening, they would still take the last school bus back to the dormitory. Lu Cheng ran back and forth and busied himself for a while. Finally, Sun Jian, Li Mao, Jiang Fuxing, Wu Meng, Lin Hua, Li Xiaowen, Yinjika, Guqing and himself checked in. However, after taking the room card, he lured Yinjika to his room with the excuse that he wanted to discuss the match in the afternoon with her. You're not going to do anything bad, are you? Standing at the door, Yinjika suddenly felt a little timid and bit her lower lip. This was probably the first time she had opened a room with a boy. Lu Cheng laughed and said, Am I such a pervert in your eyes? Yes. Yinjika answered crisply without hesitation. After that, her dimples appeared and she was very charming. Lu Qing was speechless for a moment, and had to tell the truth. You have a match in the afternoon. How dare I do anything bad? I just learned a new skill, and thought it would come in handy today. What new skill? Yenjika rolled her eyes and was full of curiosity. Lu Qing swiped the card and opened the door. He said with a smile. It's a massage skill to help you quickly relieve your fatigue. Really? Yenjika said with a face of I don't believe it. You'll know after you try it. It can also be used with the ointment to remove your bruises and swelling. You won't have any hidden injuries left after continuous matches. Lu Qing said seriously while inserting the room card into the socket. Looking at her boyfriend's serious face, Yenjika nodded slightly and smiled. Then I'll believe you this time. While talking, she walked in and looked around curiously. It seemed that she had never stayed in such an express hotel before. Clang. Lu Qing closed the door and blocked out the noise outside. You sit by the bed and I'll massage you, he suggested with a smile. Yenjika rolled her eyes at him. You're sweating all over. You don't think it smells, but I think it's dirty. Take a shower first and then try your new skill. Besides, she had to apply the ointment after the shower. After saying that, she took the bag from Lu Qing without any vigilance, just like in the locker room during the match. But when she bent down to take off her martial arts shoes, she suddenly froze. She seemed to have thought of something and her pretty face turned red. Then she rushed into the bathroom with her slippers and other things. She closed the door firmly and locked it with a click. What's wrong? Lu Qing was a little confused and sat by the bed casually. After a few minutes, the sound of the shower came from the bathroom. It was soft and dense, echoing in his ears. Lu Qing didn't feel anything at first, but as he listened, he suddenly found that the surroundings were unusually quiet, completely different from the locker room in the past. In this room, there's only me and Ku. This realization suddenly flashed in his mind, giving birth to an inexplicable feeling in his heart. He felt that the sound of the water seemed to be knocking on his heart, and evoking something called ambiguity. A man and a woman alone in a room. He took a deep breath and told himself that Yenjika had a match in the afternoon, and it was a very important ranking event. He couldn't disturb her state of mind. The water condensed into ice, and the ice melted again. Lu Qing felt like he was sitting on pins and needles, sometimes restless and sometimes calm. When the sound of the shower stopped abruptly, he exhaled silently, as if he had just finished a challenge tournament. After a short while, Yenjika opened the door and came out. She was still wearing the white martial arts suit of Songqing University with black edges. Her hair was loosely tied up with a cowhide band, and her neck was white and slender. Her facial features were more and more beautiful at this time. Her exposed skin was moist and tender, as if it could be broken by a blow. Lu Qing looked like he was struck by lightning. He stared at her blankly, and gradually his mouth and tongue became dry. What are you looking at? Yenjika's face turned red as soon as she met Lu Qing's eyes. She hummed shyly, and then she said with a little fear, I'd better go to Qing first. I always feel that Qing will turn into a pervert if he howls. Why did I follow him and so stupidly? Lu Qing took a deep breath and smelled the fragrance of the girl after the shower. He quickly condensed the water into ice and said earnestly, Trust me. I'm really just giving you a massage to relax. How can I bear to disturb the ranking event that you've been looking forward to for so long? Looking at his sincere expression, Yenjika bit her lower lip and said, Okay, I believe you. Speaking of this, she raised her eyes, which seemed to be a little misty, and looked at Lu Qing timidly. Don't let me down. Of course not. Look at my righteous face. Lu Qing deliberately made a joke to ease the girl's uneasiness. Silly face. Yenjika cursed with a smile. She put down the martial arts shoes and other things in her hands and sat beside Lu Qing. She looked at her feet shyly and uneasily and said, Let's start. Okay, Lu Qing first took out the ointment and put it aside, waiting to be used. Then he let the girl turn her body sideways, and then he knelt on one leg on the edge of the bed and stretched out his hands to press her shoulders. After a few times, Yenjika was a little happy and a little surprised. Qing, when did you learn to do this? You're quite good at it. Lu Qing laughed and said, Didn't you say before that when I mastered the skill of massage, you would let me help you with physical therapy to relax? I've always kept it in mind, watched a lot of videos, and looked up a lot of information. With my insight and understanding of the body, how could they hide from me with their little tricks? I learned it quickly. You still remember it. Yenjika pursed her lips and looked in front of her, her deep dimples showing sweetness. But you're usually so busy. How can you have time to look at this? You also collected so much information about marine life. I still have time to squeeze. Lu Cheng's hands moved down and pressed the girl's back muscles. He answered with a smile. There are some non-professional courses that I don't need to listen to, but I don't dare to skip them, so I can do these things. But it's a little wasteful. In the university, there were many similar courses. Lu Cheng always suspected that these courses were specially prepared for the students to relax. Compared to them, the elective courses that were chosen based on one's interest made him more eager to listen carefully. No wonder a senior brother once said that he would always choose to skip elective courses and skip compulsory courses. Yenjika narrowed her eyes and said, I use these courses to review the professional courses and read the extended literature. Good student. Lu Qing praised. Like a child expecting praise, he asked, Is it comfortable? Do you want it more or less? It's okay. Yenjika answered reservedly, a little more. Feeling her satisfaction, the smile on Lu Cheng's face grew wider. Together with the application of the ointment, he began to massage the muscles of the girl's arms and legs to relax the remaining tension after the explosion. After the familiarization just now, Yenjika was more and more satisfied with his skills. Gradually, she closed her eyes and concentrated on enjoying. After a while of physical therapy, Lu Cheng was too embarrassed to ask his girlfriend to lie down, so he squatted down and massaged her ankle. He glanced around and saw a bruise on the back of her foot where her slippers were exposed. He applied the ointment and rubbed it away with a moderate amount of strength. Because part of the bruise was blocked by the slippers, he raised his head and wanted to ask Yenjika to lift her foot and take off her shoes. But when he saw the girl closed her eyes and enjoyed it, he felt that there was no need to ask. Since she asked him to massage it, she would definitely not object. Lu Qing held her delicate ankle and lifted it gently. Yenjika instinctively struggled for a while and then relaxed. Her eyelashes trembled slightly and her cheeks blushed unconsciously. After taking off her shoes, Lu Qing suddenly stopped breathing. He saw the girl's small feet, delicate toes, jade-like skin, and fleshy instep, which didn't match her elegant appearance, but was also quite cute. Lu Qing didn't know when it started, but he felt that his breath became heavier and his kneading action became more like caressing. He felt that this couldn't work, so he quickly raised his head and looked away, only to see Yenjika's bulging chest. Lu Cheng's blood seemed to be rushing. His mouth was dry and his tongue was restless. He pressed the acupoint on her foot harder, which made her involuntarily let out a low moan. Lu Cheng's heart beat faster when he heard the moan. When he was about to do something, Yenjika opened her eyes and asked innocently and confusedly, Cheng, what's wrong with you? Why did you press so hard? Lu Qing took a deep breath and remembered that today was the day of the ranking event. He hurriedly said, I'm going to wash my face with cold water. Yenjika was at a loss at first, but then she saw Lu Qing run to the bathroom with his back hunched. She suddenly realized what he was doing and blushed. You big pervert. She lay down on her side, grabbed a pillow and buried her face in it. Her voice was shy and happy, but when she remembered Lu Cheng's appearance just now, she couldn't help but chuckle, feeling sweet and touched. I wonder how it feels to wash my face with cold water. If it's not enough, will he take a cold shower? She thought shyly and naughtily. Lu Cheng was splashing cold water on his face to sober up the burning heat. He felt that he had just experienced another battle between heaven and earth. What a wonderful and painful experience. When he calmed down and returned to the room, Yenjika was already tired. She wrapped herself in the quilt and said, Cheng, I'm going to sleep for a while. Wake me up at 11:30 for dinner. Okay, we'll talk about the competition in the afternoon after dinner. Lu Qing walked to her side and said. Yenjika turned over and said coquettishly, Rub my temples for me until I fall asleep. Okay. Lu Qing accepted the task happily and reached out to rub her temples. After a while he heard Yenjika's steady breathing and saw that she was sleeping peacefully. His mood softened and he forgot about the wild thoughts just now. He just looked at his beloved girl for a long time. Lu Qing took the time to find the information. Instead of waking Yenjika up, he went downstairs to buy some food and brought it back. He seduced her nose with the fragrance and made her slowly open her eyes. Yenjika's black hair covered both sides of her face. Her face was white and delicate, and her dark and lively eyes were still a little confused after waking up. Lu Qing stared at her in a daze and felt that he would never forget this picture. Yenjika won the competition in the afternoon and evening, because she was well prepared and strong enough. Lu Qing, on the other hand, experienced the torture of ice and fire in the afternoon when he was massaging her in the afternoon. At 8 o'clock in the evening, the martial arts club returned to the old campus. Guqing, Li Mao, and the others were quite excited because they also won all the matches. Sun Jian, however, was a little depressed because he met a strong opponent in the group and lost the previous match. Since then, the hope of qualifying was very slim. It's just bad luck. We can try again in June. Everyone comforted him. After walking for a while, Yenjika slowed down and said pitifully in Lu Qing's ear, "I used too much strength in the last match. My muscles are a little sore." Lu Qing looked around and suggested with a smile, "How about I carry you on my back?" "It's too embarrassing." Yenjika refused immediately. "What are you afraid of? Let's walk slowly and take a detour. You can bury your face in my shoulder later. Then no one will recognize you and you won't feel embarrassed," Lu Qing said half-jokingly. Yenjika burst out laughing. "You're making me sound like an ostrich." Under Lu Qing's persuasion, she finally agreed. They walked slower and slower until they completely fell behind. "Come on up." Lu Qing squatted down and said with a smile. Yenjika put her hands on his shoulders and let him hook her legs and carry her on his back. "So light," Lu Qing chuckled. At this time, the sky was dark and the night wind was cool. The faint fragrance of flowers floated around. It was quiet and peaceful. Yenjika didn't say anything. Her cheeks were rosy and her dimples were shallow. Lu Qing saw that no one was around and took a deep breath. "Ku, your mother came to see me today during your match." "What?" Yenjika was confused and doubted that she had heard it wrong. Lu Qing didn't turn around. He smiled and said, "She confirmed that we were dating, but she didn't seem to object." Although his mother-in-law had asked him not to tell Ku, he was very clear about who would be his future family and who would be the most important one. "My mother? Did she come back?" Yenjika didn't realize until now. She was confused, shocked, and puzzled. Lu Qing told her in detail what they had talked about, and finally asked the question that he wanted to know the most. "Ku, what's your dream?" Chapter 178. After listening to Lu Qing's story, Yenjika wondered if she was really proud and happy when she mentioned her boyfriend. At the same time, she wanted to exclaim that Tai Xueran was so powerful that ordinary people like her couldn't compare with him. But the last question made her fall silent. Under the illumination of the street lamps, she rested her hands on his shoulders. Her eyes peered over his sideburns, looking at half of his face from a different angle than usual. She could feel the steady but anxious footsteps beneath her. She pursed her lips and said, "You're too young. My biggest dream is, of course, to make up for the shortcomings of my body and continue to walk on the path of martial arts. Even if I may not be able to go very far, I will be very, very happy with every step forward. However, with the current medical development, there is no hope for this. Moreover, it has been more than 10 years, and I have accepted this reality. It does not affect my daily life. My mom is talking about another thing. I used to think that I had a talent for numbers and logic and could see through the rules of things at a glance. Humph, don't laugh. I was so innocent back then. Now I have been led astray by you. Therefore, I often tell my mother that I can definitely inherit your company. It's a piece of cake. But I don't like to deal with all kinds of strangers. I don't like to fight and scheme. I don't like to run around everywhere. So I want to learn mathematics, economics, trade, and finance. I want to be a strategist, hiding behind the scenes and strategizing. I applied to Songqing University because I wanted to keep an eye on my brother in case something happened to him. Also, our school and Yvonne University in the United States have a joint training program. When I am in my senior year, I can go there to study under the top scholars in the world after passing the assessment. It will take about 3 to 5 years. The night breeze was cool. The girl's voice drilled into Lu Cheng's ears and made him a little absent-minded. Is this the test of time and distance? Little Ming already has a hard time in a long-distance relationship, let alone in a foreign country. He took a breath and asked seriously and nervously, "Will you come back?" Yenjika burst into laughter and answered firmly, "Of course I will. My relatives and friends are here. The culture and history that are deeply ingrained in my bones are here. All my favorite food is here. The boy I like is here too." Towards the end of her sentence, her voice became softer and softer until it was as soft as a mosquito's buzzing, but she still insisted on saying it. Fortunately, she was on Orange's back and didn't have to face him. He wouldn't see her embarrassed expression. "The boy I like is also here." A smile appeared on Lu Cheng's face. He let out a long sigh and said, "Then go. Go and pursue your dreams. Let me see the more brilliant and beautiful you." "Cheng, have you been scared silly by my mom? Even your words have become more cultured." Yenjika chuckled and put her hands around his shoulders, clasping them in front of him. "Aren't you worried?" she asked in an uncertain tone. "Yes. My little fairy is so pretty, so cute, so smart, and so beautiful. I don't know how many men have bad intentions towards her." Yenjika pursed her lips and smiled. She thought for a while and said, "I'm quite confident in myself. There were many good boys who pursued me before, but I still cruelly rejected them all. I know what I want, so I can persevere. You can say that I'm very rational, but you can also say that I'm very hard-hearted. But you, Cheng, you have so many fans now. When you step into the dance stage and enter the professional martial arts circle in the future, there will definitely be more girls who like you and even seduce you. Without me watching over you, I really don't know if you can reject them. My mom always says that not many men can withstand this kind of test." Lu Cheng didn't look back. He smiled and said, "I'm confident in myself. If I can persist in training every day, I can also persist in keeping a distance from other girls. I'm going to become a mighty one with physical invulnerability. How can I not have some extraordinary perseverance?" "Cheng, your words remind me of a term in a novel." Yenjika was silent for a few seconds. She suddenly laughed and said, "Ascetic boy." "Pfft, what kind of term is that?" Lu Cheng didn't think too much about the term and said, "Actually, it's not a big deal to be in a foreign relationship. In the age of the internet, communication is so convenient. As long as you coordinate your time, you can still chat every day. Besides, I should be a powerful dance stage fighter by then. I can definitely afford to fly once a month. But I'm a little sad that you're alone outside and can't find anyone to help you." Yenjika's eyes turned dark and bright. She replied with a smile, "I'll definitely be a tough girl of professional ninth pin by then. What can't I solve by myself? Well, when I'm there, I'll focus on my studies. I'll wear a pair of big black-rimmed glasses and dress like a nun. I won't attend any parties and will be immune to all harassment. I'll try to come back in 3 years. Won't you become Abbess Miju?" Lu Cheng was happy to hear that. He reminded her worriedly, "You must be careful of those men who try to get close to you by pretending to be your fellow countrymen." Yenjika immediately laughed and raised her head. "Are you talking about yourself? You must learn from the mistakes of others," Lu Cheng said half seriously and half self-deprecatingly. Yenjika was infected by his optimism. Her melancholy melted away. She looked at the back of his head with a smile, and suddenly remembered a sentence. "I was young then. I didn't understand the ruthlessness of time and the cruelty of distance. The reason why I didn't tell Cheng that I was going abroad was that after falling in love, I was hesitant and scared. I wasn't as decisive as before. I really considered whether I should give up or not. But when I thought of doing something I didn't like in the future, or only having him as the center of my life, I felt that it was too sad. If I don't chase my dream while I'm young and still have the drive, I'll definitely regret it in the future." Sigh. It's true that a hero's temper is short because of love. Well, I'm that hero. Yenjika's arms around Lu Cheng's neck tightened. She leaned over and whispered in Lu Cheng's ear. You're a femme fatale. Ah? Lu Cheng was dumbfounded. What was this all about? Yenjika thought about it seriously and then repeated. You're a femme fatale. Lu Cheng didn't understand until now. He laughed and changed the topic. Ku, even Empress Dowager has acknowledged me. Does that mean we're dating openly? Of course not. You just passed my mom. There's still my dad, my grandpa, my grandma, my grandpa, and so on. The revolution hasn't succeeded yet. Comrade, you still need to work hard. No way. I thought Empress Dowager was the most difficult one. Who gave you such an illusion? I always thought my mom would be the most accepting one. Their laughter floated in the wind and scattered on the road at night. Lu Cheng carried the girl to the school bus stop. He was reluctant to put her down and wanted to keep walking like this. There were still 3 years left. There would be a way when the time came. The next morning, Lu Cheng seemed to have matured a little. He stood there and calmly comprehended the 2 visualization diagrams. This was the only thing he could rely on to settle down and protect his love. After a short while, he closed his eyes and concentrated his spirit and chi. He outlined the freezing sky and freezing ground diagram in his mind bit by bit. It was no different from the previous days. During this process, he gradually merged the frost concept of the Jindan that was engraved in his heart with the brush strokes, making each snowflake seem to have a life of its own, bringing a distinct coldness to the empty world. 1, 2, 3. The world slowly turned white. A chill that could freeze everything and bury life was about to come out. Lu Cheng's spirit was already tired. At this moment, he suddenly realized that he had finally reached the edge of success after several days of accumulation and comprehension. He endured the emptiness and sketched the last stroke. With a boom, the freezing sky and freezing ground diagram suddenly expanded and occupied every corner of his mind. The bone-chilling coldness turned into a solid substance, freezing life and freezing the world. Subtle changes appeared in Lu Cheng's body. Some of his muscles tightened or trembled. Some of his tendons and vessels expanded or contracted. The corresponding organs squirmed or rose and fell. Normally speaking, every movement of the human body, no matter how weak it was, would create waves that belonged to itself. However, they were too weak and would disappear in the blink of an eye. But at this moment, these waves were ingeniously stacked together, turning into an icy chill that even normal people could feel, spreading in all directions. The leisurely geyser sure at the side suddenly froze. He looked over and whispered in astonishment. You've succeeded in your visualization? Lu Cheng's spirit had reached its limit. He couldn't hold it anymore, and exited the state of unity. He opened his eyes and happily answered his master's question. Yes, I've finally succeeded. Finally? Geyser sure was stunned. He suddenly laughed and said, Not bad. You have some of my demeanor back then. That's all for today. Don't try to force yourself to avoid hurting your brain. Okay, you can practice by yourself now. Master was so awesome back then. I couldn't beat him even with the help of Jindan. Lu Cheng's heart trembled. He put away the pride and satisfaction of finally succeeding in his visualization, and started to run seriously. When he was far away, Geyser sure cursed in his heart. Damn it. I thought it was amazing enough that I succeeded in 1 month of visualization. Could it be that the Longhu Immortal's relic he got helped him understand the frost concept? But there's no precedent for this. Chapter 179. After jogging, Lu Cheng took a shower, changed his clothes and had breakfast. He went back to the dormitory and waited for Yenjika at the entrance of the 3rd dormitory. The girl was always punctual, and would always arrive a little earlier than usual. It didn't take long for her to appear at the entrance of the unit. She carried a bag and walked briskly towards Lu Cheng. She was still wearing the white Songqing University martial arts suit with black edges, but this was the spare one. She wore a small pink jacket, looking like a little white flower. Lu Cheng walked up to her, took the bag, and held her hand. He smiled and said, You're recovering well. Are your muscles not sore anymore? When they returned to the new campus last night, he pulled Yenjika to a secluded spot by the lake, and let her sit on the bench. He applied ointment and massaged her body to relax her muscles, doing his best to be a good boyfriend. Of course, during this process, smelling the girl's fragrance, touching her smooth and elastic skin, and looking at her beautiful appearance, Lu Qing couldn't help himself. Especially when he helped her take off her martial arts shoes and socks, and massage the hidden wounds on her feet. He really had the illusion that he was undressing her. He almost howled at the moon and turned into a fire-breathing werewolf. Fortunately, with his extraordinary perseverance, he restrained himself in the end. He only asked for a passionate kiss after the deed was done to soothe the wounds in his heart. Not sore anymore. Yen Zhika revealed her sweet dimples and said with a smile, I can call you a massage expert in the future. Hee. Next time when you're tired from special training or competition, you can find me directly for physical therapy. Lu Qing tried to keep his smile from being too bright. At that time, there won't be any competition, and I won't have to worry about it. I won't have to struggle so much. Just thinking about it filled me with anticipation. Yen Zhika rolled her black eyes and rolled her eyes at Lu Qing. She seemed to be embarrassed and angry at the same time. You're smiling so lecherously. Do you think I'm stupid? Humph, I'll definitely choose a place where other people are for physical therapy. Where? Lu Qing looked at his girlfriend innocently. If he wasn't holding Yen Zhika with one hand and carrying her bag with the other, he would have rubbed his face to prevent it from being too stiff. Everywhere. Yen Zhika covered her mouth and chuckled. The two of them had eaten breakfast, and as they talked, they went straight to the bus station to meet up with Guqing, Li Mao, and the others. Yen Zhika noticed that Lu Qing looked tired when they got on the car. She asked with concern, Qing, you look tired. Speaking of this, she suddenly thought of something that Dirty Tong said, and her pretty face suddenly turned red. She forcibly held back her laughter, turned her head to look out the window, and said casually, You didn't sleep well, did you? At this moment, the image of Lu Qing running to the bathroom with a hunched back flashed through her mind. She had a hard time holding back her laughter, and her body was trembling slightly because of it. Oh no, I've been led astray by Cheng and Dirty Tong. Seeing the girl like this and hearing her question, Lu Cheng's old face immediately turned red. Yes, he did have sex with her in the middle of the night. Unfortunately, when he woke up, he couldn't remember Yen Zhika's beautiful appearance in his dream. Sigh. As a young man with a strong body and vigor that far exceeds that of ordinary people, it would be strange if he didn't have any reaction in the middle of the night after being stimulated so many times that he almost couldn't control himself. Empress Dowager said to stop before going too far. What a great test. But to what extent should he stop? While thinking, he lowered his voice and explained, I'm sorry, Coach Yen. I'm not tired because of this. It's because I finally got started on visualization today. I've used up too much energy, so I'm a little tired. Visualization. Yen Zhika was born in a martial arts family, so she naturally understood that Lu Cheng's visualization was not a normal visualization. She turned around and said with surprise, Coach Sure officially accepted you as a disciple? She even showed the visualization diagram to Cheng. Yes. Lu Qing admitted frankly. Master, I didn't reveal it. She guessed it. I didn't break my promise. Yen Zhika's clear eyes were filled with obvious joy. She pursed her lips and said with a smile, You're a martial artist with a master and a background in the future. You won't be bullied by others. Even old men and women would think highly of you. It's not enough. You can only be strong if you're strong yourself. Lu Cheng was full of confidence after getting started on visualization. Yen Zhika looked at his confident and high-spirited look. Her dark and beautiful eyes sparkled like stars. She laughed in a low voice and said, My brother spent 3 months to get the beginner's level of visualization corresponding to meteor force. Even if Cheng started to comprehend the visualization diagram since the awakening of the power of frost, it still took less than a month. She couldn't hide the pride and happiness in her voice. Lu Qing didn't mention that it only took him a week, because he thought it was due to the help of the Jindan. He just smiled and said, Everyone has different talents. Well, combined with the supernatural ability of frost, it won't be long before I can master the frost force. He didn't say these words to show off. He mainly wanted to share his joy with the girl he loved, and to give her enough confidence. Based on what Casanova Kai Xiaoming had said about long-distance relationships, He had grasped an important point. When faced with the test of time and distance, it wasn't enough to rely on feelings alone. One had to give the other party enough confidence in all aspects. Frost force. Yenjika repeated in a low voice. Her eyebrows and the corners of her eyes were full of joy. Lu Qing changed his hand from holding hers to intertwined fingers. They looked at each other and the atmosphere became warm and meaningful. They felt that any random topic was so interesting and comfortable. After a while, Yenjika rolled her eyes and couldn't restrain her curiosity. She pretended to ask casually, "You're not tired because of that? In other words, you didn't sleep well last night? Did you have a strange dream?" After asking, she blushed and looked out of the window. But she couldn't help looking back at Lu Cheng's reaction. "What should I do? I've been with Cheng for a long time. I'm getting bolder and more shameless in this aspect." Lu Cheng laughed and recalled the bitterness of getting up in the middle of the night to change his pants. He answered honestly and teasingly, "Yes, I had a wet dream. I dreamed that I and you." "Don't say it." Yenjika took his hand and hit his thigh. She looked out of the window in panic. But her ears were dyed with a layer of red, sparkling and translucent like a gem. After a long time she calmed down. She turned back and whispered, "Big pervert. You asked, but you became so shy after asking. Girls are so strange." Lu Qing really wanted to scratch the back of his head. Yenjika saw that he became honest and nodded with satisfaction. She volunteered, "Come closer. I'll rub your temples and show you the skills of a massage expert." "Okay." Lu Qing was pleasantly surprised. He sat closer, smelling the girl's delicate fragrance and feeling her slender but nimble fingers rubbing his temples to relieve his tiredness. "Your skills are good. When did you learn?" he praised sincerely. Yenjika raised her chin and said with a little pride, "Yesterday. When you gave me a massage, I just felt it a little and learned it. I'm not as stupid as you." Yes. You're our family's IQ." Lu Qing praised exaggeratedly. Enjoying the girl's gentleness, he felt good both physically and mentally. He only hated that the journey to the old campus was not long enough. They arrived in only half an hour. Yenjika's opponent in the morning was called Zhang Hengwang. He was the strongest opponent in her group. There were even battle videos of him on the internet. When analyzing the videos last night, Lu Qing felt lucky that the girl didn't meet him in the first round. Because of her lack of actual combat experience, she could easily make mistakes. However, after yesterday's 3 matches, Lu Qing was sure that his girlfriend had completely gotten rid of her newbie status. With her strength, superior inheritance, and him helping her to analyze her opponent's battle videos, her chance of winning was more than 70%. After the match started, it went as he expected. Yenjika took the initiative from the beginning and brought the situation into her control. Even so, as a boyfriend, Lu Qing didn't dare to relax. He was afraid that something wrong would upset the girl. At this moment, he saw 3 figures that he wasn't familiar with, but they weren't strangers either. Dream Squad. Lu Qing said to himself. They were Qianruoyu, Jiang Dingyi, and Feng Xiaoquan. What a coincidence. Qianruoyu greeted with a smile. Lu Qing was confused. Yes, it is. I didn't expect you to come here. They were already of amateur first pin, and didn't need to participate in this ranking event. If you can cheer for your girlfriend, we can also cheer for our junior brothers and sisters. Qianruoyu chuckled and turned to Yenjika in the field. I saw you, so I came to say hello. I see. Lu Qing suddenly understood, but he didn't want to chat with her since he wasn't familiar with her. He just replied with 3 simple words. Qianruoyu didn't care about his attitude and said with a smile. Do you want to work part-time during the summer? You can work part-time in our martial arts club. The pay is good 9 to 5, and we won't ask you to reveal the unique skills of our sect. We just want to teach the students the basics. This wasn't her idea, but her father's. Who wouldn't want to have a good relationship with such a talented fighter with a strong background and potential? In Jianghu, harmony wasn't the most important thing, but one more friend was one more path. The real old fox knew this. Lu Qing knew that he could reach the peak of body refining realm with Thunder Roar Zen before the summer vacation. He needed to prepare medicine soup and other things to break through to Danqi realm, which was a huge expense. He had already planned to find a way to make money. The rest of his private money had to be used for dating. 99% of it was not enough. However, Yanjika would definitely go back to Xiushan by then. Why would he stay in Songcheng? Anyway, there were ways to make money in Xiushan. Thinking of this, he replied politely, I have to go back home during the summer vacation. If there is a chance, I'd love to work part-time in the martial arts club. Anytime. Qianruoyu maintained her standard smile. After she turned and walked away, she exhaled and said, It's so stressful to be with such a guy. Chapter 180. Lu Qing didn't care about the feelings of Qianruoyu and the others. Instead, he was curious about how long the triangle relationship could last, and when it would happen. He turned his eyes back to the field, and saw that Yanjika had finally created an opportunity by pulling back her center of gravity twice in a row. She borrowed strength and launched 24 blizzard strikes, completely suppressing Zhang Hengwang with the momentum of the mega avalanche. Zhang Hengwang made 2 efforts in a row, but they were all defused by the girl with some skills of yin-yang twist. Not only was the avalanche not interrupted, but it became more and more fierce and terrifying. In the end, it broke the opponent's stance with an overwhelming momentum. Seizing the opportunity, Yanjika visualized the explosive power of meteor fall. Adding all the strength she had borrowed before, she leaned sideways and directly knocked Zhang Hengwang out of the arena. If she hadn't held back at the last moment, her opponent would have at least broken a few ribs due to her bouncing and shaking. Yanjika wins. The referee withdrew his hand, which was trying to stop the fight. Yanjika exhaled a mouthful of foul air. She only felt that her body was empty, and the muscles of her legs were trembling uncontrollably. This was a hard fight. Although her opponent was at a disadvantage at the beginning, he defended impenetrably with his rich experience and good strength. Sometimes he could even counterattack once or twice. In the last fierce attack of the mega avalanche, he had almost held on for a round. He was really a tenacious enemy, who made her consume a lot of energy. Ignoring Zhang Hengwang's attempt to stand up and talk to her, Yanjika turned to look at the stands. She met Lu Cheng's eyes and smiled. No matter what, she had made it through the group. There was only one battle left before she reached amateur second pin. She just had to grit her teeth and endure it. She took back her phone and turned to walk up the aisle. After a few steps, her delicate eyebrows suddenly wrinkled. She felt the tension and trembling of the muscles of her legs. Her knees almost gave way and she fell to the ground. Before she could think of anything, she saw a blur in front of her. She saw Lu Qing jump down from the high platform like an eagle. His toes touched the ground midway and he changed his direction. He arrived in front of her in a flying posture. The whole process had the beauty of a burst of power, and also the elegance of lifting heavy things as if they were light. Are you okay? Lu Qing held the girl and asked with concern. Yanjika was in a daze, as if she hadn't come back to her senses yet. Her face was full of confusion until her body was held by her boyfriend. Then she smiled little by little. Her watery eyes looked to the side, hiding a little pride and joy. She pretended not to care and said, Nothing. I just consumed too much energy. You scared me to death just now. You appeared in front of me in the blink of an eye. Didn't I see you almost fall? Lu Qing looked around and found that there were still many people who had noticed his feat. They were full of admiration, and gave him a thumbs up. He really wanted sex more than his life. It was just a piece of cake. Lu Qing smiled contentedly and suggested to the girl, Let's go straight back to the hotel, and not wait for them. Let's make the best use of the time to recover. The most important battle is in the afternoon. We'll be fine once we get through it. Yes. Yanjika knew that this was the best and most reasonable choice, so she nodded politely. Just as she was about to support her boyfriend, she saw Lu Qing crouch down and pat her on the shoulder. Come on, I'll carry you. Yanjika wanted to say that's so embarrassing. But considering the tense muscles in her body and her boyfriend's attitude, she swallowed the words. She looked around and then lowered her head guiltily. She loosened her bun and let her black hair hang down, covering half of her cheeks. I'm an ostrich. She muttered to herself and leaned on Lu Cheng's back. She put her hands on her shoulders and didn't let her chest touch her boyfriend's body. Lu Qing knew that the girl was shy, so he talked about what happened before to divert her attention. I just met Qianruoyu and her friends. She politely invited me to work in her martial arts club during the summer vacation. Yanjika was really interested. She stared at the back of her boyfriend's head and said with a faint smile, "So are you going? Isn't it up to you?" Lu Qing took the opportunity to ask, "Ko, are you going back to Xioshan during the summer vacation?" "Of course, I'm a little homesick." Yanjika's tone became light. "At most, I'll take a week or two to play with Grandpa. Isn't that right? Since you're going back to Xioshan, wouldn't it be crazy for me to stay in Songqing?" Lu Qing didn't slow down and carried the girl out of the second hall. Yanjika asked thoughtfully, "Chung, you should have practiced martial arts to the bone and body during the summer vacation, right? That was the peak of the body refining state. No need for summer vacation." Lu Cheng's answer was concise and full of confidence. But he immediately became long-winded and told the girl about his plan. "I've thought about it. If I want to break through to the Danqi state, I can't just rely on 10,000 yuan. During the summer vacation, I'll check if there are any small challenge tournaments in the province and take some time to get some prize money. If there's no money, I'll ask my classmates for help and work part-time in the martial arts club." Yanjika heard that Lu Qing had already made plans and preparations. She bit her lower lip with her white teeth to hide her smile, but she couldn't hide the gentleness in her expression. Her hands on Lu Cheng's shoulders unconsciously moved to his front. Lu Cheng's heart skipped a beat when he felt the girl leaning on him gently. He felt her strong and straight body. It was the season of spring and flowers were in full bloom. He was wearing thin clothes, but Yanjika had just finished a match and was feeling hot, so she didn't wear the pink and white jacket. Lu Cheng silently recited the names of the gods and Buddhas, trying to divert his attention to more important things like last time. Ku had fought 4 matches in a day and a half, so she was very tired. "I'll give her a good physical therapy later, at least let her recover 70% or 80% of her strength. Speaking of the summer vacation, I wonder if the special training will be suspended during the 1st of May to let everyone take a breather. Little Ming's girlfriend will come to Songqing to play. Should I ask Ku to go sightseeing with the nearby scenic spots?" He talked with Yanjika while thinking aimlessly. Finally, they arrived at the hotel. This time, Yanjika learned her lesson and went back to her and Guiqing's room to take a shower, so as not to add fuel to the fire and arouse Cheng's beast. Lu Qing also took the opportunity to wash his face and sober up. He didn't forget that the black fertilizer would evaporate and so on. Maybe it was because of his good performance yesterday that he could control himself at the critical moment. Yanjika trusted him more today. She directly lay on the bed with a bashful attitude and constantly changed her position to match Lu Cheng's massage position. Looking at her light and soft body and boundless beauty, Lu Cheng raised his head and felt that tongue twisters couldn't stop him anymore. "Cheng, what are you doing?" Yanjika just happened to lean on the pillow. Lu Cheng smiled bitterly. Reciting the Heart Sutra, "Color is emptiness, emptiness is color." Yanjika almost burst out laughing. She forced herself to hold back, and said with her body slightly trembling, "Recite it well, I believe you." "I don't believe in myself." Lu Qing wailed to himself and exhaled. He visualized a thundercloud and tightened some of his muscles. When he pressed the girl's thigh, he exploded the vibration force. This was a flash of inspiration after yesterday's massage. He came up with a new idea for the use of Thunder Roar Zen. Control the strength to relieve the deep fatigue in the muscles. Yanjika suddenly answered with a and asked in surprise, "Chung, what's this technique? It's so strange." "It's the daily use of tremor force. How do you feel?" Lu Cheng said with a little pride. Thunder Roar Zen was originally a martial art that could be used to train the bone marrow and the viscera. But it still felt strange to use it as a massage technique. "I wonder if Master will beat me." "Tremor force?" Yanjika slightly opened her pink lips and revealed her white teeth. Her face was adorable. This was the tremor force that could defeat most of the professional 9th pin fighters. "Just to give me a massage? Chung is so creative. But why do I feel so happy?" "Yeah, how do you feel?" Lu Qing asked again to confirm the final strength. Yenjika pursed her lips and curved her eyebrows. A little bit more gently. Otherwise, it would affect other parts of the body and make her feel uncomfortable. After that, Lu Cheng, who was concentrating on controlling the strength, didn't think too much. But when he switched back to the normal massage technique to recover his energy, he saw Yenjika fall asleep without any defense. He felt a little restless and had to go to the bathroom to calm himself down. He went back and forth 3 times. When Yenjika woke up, she saw Lu Cheng was still busy giving her a massage. She felt warm in her heart and asked softly, "Cheng, are you tired?" He looked very tired. Tremor force was not a martial art with low consumption. "I'm okay." Lu Cheng tried to stay awake and said, "How do you feel? How much have you recovered?" Yenjika got up from the bed and slowly made a routine. She said with surprise and joy, "It's almost the same as when I went out this morning." "That's good. I'll go out to buy some food. You lie down for a while." Seeing the girl's surprise, Lu Cheng felt that all his hard work was not in vain. And at this level, the rest of the fatigue could only be recovered by itself. Seeing him go out in a hurry, Yenjika leaned on the pillow and smiled gently. Her eyes were like water. At 1 o'clock, the two returned to the arena and received the results of the draw from the service desk. Yenjika vs He Lingling. Lu Cheng endured the exhaustion and the throbbing pain caused by excessive mental exhaustion, and immediately looked up the information of his opponent. "She seems to be a little stronger than your opponent in the morning." He made a judgment while looking. Yenjika was also looking at her phone. She nodded slightly and said, "She's good at dragon shape and practicing the spine. She's very good at catching. Don't think about letting her catch. Dragon claws are mainly tearing. You'll get hurt if you're not careful." Lu Cheng started a discussion with the girl. After a long time, Yenjika had a general idea. She sighed and said, "I just checked QQ. Ah Ching said that although senior brother Sun Jian won the last match, he still didn't make it to the next round. The ranking event really depends on luck. But my little fairy is very lucky," Lu Cheng said with emotion. Yenjika looked at him with a smile and said, "You're going to participate in the professional ranking event in April. How do you feel about your luck? Do you want my luck to shine on you?" Lu Cheng laughed in a low voice and said, "Coach Yen, can I brag?" "Brag?" Yenjika's eyes lit up and she urged him curiously. "Based on the current situation, I think I'm the standard to measure other people's luck." Lu Cheng said with a smile, "You're lucky if you don't get my number. If you do, you can only say you have bad luck." He said this with confidence and high spirits. He had mastered the Thunder Roar Zen, and was sure to master the Frost Force before the end of April. If he didn't even have the confidence to make it to the ranking event, he might as well go back and kill himself with a piece of tofu. At 2:50, Yenjika stepped into the ring and faced the last and most crucial opponent of the ranking event. If she won this match, her previous efforts would be meaningful. If she lost this match, she had to start all over again. He Lingling was about the same height as Yenjika. She looked more solemn. At this moment, she took a breath and said with a smile, "I thought it would be easier. Those who can make it to the next round are not easy to deal with." Yenjika didn't fall for her opponent's arrogance. "I won't be careless." Chapter 181. He Lingling was stunned for a moment, then she chuckled. "I thought a girl like you who is spoiled and everything goes smoothly would be easy to be complacent and arrogant. What does she mean by being spoiled, and everything goes smoothly?" Yenjika felt that He Lingling's words seemed to be complimenting her, but in fact, there were sharp needles hidden in them. She felt a little uncomfortable, but she had received a good education since she was young, so she didn't want to argue with her enemy. So she closed her eyes, adjusted her emotions, and prepared for the best battle state. She felt He Lingling's noisy voice gradually fade away, and her mind slowly cleared. She suddenly recalled what had happened in the past few days. Mom had acquiesced to Cheng's existence, so she didn't have to worry about it, feel guilty and worry about it anymore. She took this opportunity to tell Cheng about her plan to study abroad, and got his understanding and support. She didn't have to worry about it all the time, a single man and a single woman in a room. Furthermore, there was intimate skin contact, but Cheng still endured it. He would rather suffer by himself than let me be disturbed. This proved that he didn't like me purely because of lust. Everything was so happy and relaxing. The burden in her heart was lifted layer by layer. So free and satisfied. Yenjika opened her eyes and felt refreshed. Her mind was unprecedentedly lively, and all the distracting thoughts in her mind faded away, leaving only the match in front of her. The last match. When she was a little impatient, the referee raised his right hand and waved it down. Start. He Lingling had been preparing for a long time. She leaned forward, bounced her spine, and pounced forward like a dragon, approaching Yenjika at an extremely fast speed. Dragon form, rising dragon. She had practiced this move to the current level, so she could forcibly pull back her center of gravity with her spine like Lu Cheng and Yenjika. However, she still lacked fine control of her body muscles, which could easily hurt other parts of her body. So she wouldn't use this move under normal circumstances. And if this move was cultivated to the peak of the body refinement realm, with a flick of the spine, most of the muscles in the body would exert force, vibrating and stirring the air. Combined with the sound of breathing in the mouth, it could create a low roar like a dragon's roar, producing an effect similar to the lion's roar. Seeing that He Lingling was almost in front of her, Yenjika, who had lost her balance, calmed down and visualized a scene of rolling snow. She shook her right arm and hit out. He Lingling had already raised her right hand, clenched it into a fist, and struck out from the side. Bang! As soon as the two of them collided, He Lingling's 5 fingers popped out, making a series of crackling sounds. Her iron fingers were like hooks, grabbing Yenjika's fist. Dragon form, dragon claw tier. Yenjika was no stranger to this move. She had been fighting according to the method she had discussed with Lu Cheng before, which was to leave as soon as she touched the dragon. Now, with the help of the rebound of the collision, she quickly withdrew her right fist and narrowly avoided the dragon's claw. At the same time, she twisted her waist and tightened her thighs. Her left foot kicked out like a straight soft whip towards He Lingling's knee. I don't believe you can use the dragon claw skill. At this moment, He Lingling bent her spine and bent her body, lowering her body in time. Her right hand's 5 fingers tore through the wind, fiercely grabbing Yenjika's ankle. Dragon form, dragon form. The most important part of training was the spine, which was the dragon of the body. Yenjika's heart tightened. She knew that once she was caught by the dragon's claw and torn, with her listening skill, she would have no time to react. Her left leg would be temporarily disabled, and it would be difficult to recover without several weeks or even months of treatment. This kind of move was one of the main culprits that caused more serious injuries in the arena matches, because it was difficult for the referee to make a judgment in time. If his vision was slightly off, it would be difficult for him to know whether the next move would be a grab or a tear, and he would not be able to judge in advance whether the captured fighter had the means to deal with it. If he was half a beat slower, once the force was released, the result would be irreversible. At this moment, Yenjika's left leg had just whipped towards Yenjika, and it seemed that it would be difficult for her to change her move or dodge. She could only see if there was a way to create an instant burst of strength to escape the dragon's claw. The situation was very dangerous. But suddenly, her body trembled strangely. Her left leg paused, and she twisted her waist and back. Her whole body soared into the air, and with a spring of her right leg, she kicked He Lingling's chin. Chain kick, one of the skills of the yin-yang twist. This move was like a stroke of genius, completely out of He Lingling's expectations. Seeing that the tip of the opponent's foot was just inches away, she could only bend her waist back, and in a flash, she completed a difficult iron bridge. Even so, she still felt a burning pain on her chin, as if she had been brushed by something. With her ability to control her center of gravity, she could not maintain her balance like Lu Cheng, so she simply went with the flow and rolled on the ground like a lazy donkey. Yenjika forced herself to use the chain kick, but when she landed, she also could not maintain her center of gravity. She stumbled 2 steps to the side, and barely managed to stabilize herself. One leaped up like a carp, while the other turned around with the help of the rebound of her feet. The two resumed the confrontation before the match began. Seeing this, Lu Qing finally felt relieved and let out a long sigh. He was so worried that he almost thought that Yenjika could not resist and had to admit defeat. Of course, if they were in each other's shoes, he thought that he had more than 10 ways to break He Lingling's dragon claw. Yenjika adjusted her breath and began to attack again. This time, she changed her fighting style, which was closer to the style of the 8-diagram swimming body palm. She slid to the side of Yenjika and gave her a punch. He Lingling did not have time to use her dragon claw, so she could only raise her right arm to block the punch. Yenjika immediately used the force to swing her body and fiercely kicked out her right leg, but it could not pass the knee. Bam! He Lingling kicked out her right leg to block the attack. Her body leaned slightly to the side, and her 5 fingers were like iron, tearing the air in the air. Yenjika did not stop. She slid and stepped to the side of Yenjika again while avoiding the enemy's attack. Lu Cheng had been sparring with Yenjika every day, so he was familiar with this martial art. It was a palm technique passed down in the Ji family, called 9 Palaces Flying Dragon Palm, which focused on attacking from the side and the back. Lin Ke did not like it very much, so he hardly used it. Yenjika was using it now, but not exactly copying it. Her footwork was the footwork of the Flying Dragon Palm, but her hand fighting and leveraging skills belonged to the 24 Blizzard Strikes. Yenjika's figure fluttered and her posture was graceful. She seized the opportunity to use the brutal blizzard fiercer and fiercer, but she was not greedy. Once Yenjika used her dragon claw, she would immediately move away and change her position. Lu Qing nodded slightly to show his agreement, which put He Lingling at a disadvantage. She could not use her strength, and could only passively defend. Now it's time to see who is more impatient. He whispered to himself. The reason why he did not say who was close to the limit first was that both of them did not have a clear understanding of each other's condition. In this case, the one who was impatient first would easily expose the problem. It was very likely that the one who failed first would find out that the other was already at the limit after the failure, and would be able to win by parrying a few more moves. Lu Cheng could only pray anxiously, hoping that his tremor force massage would work. Yenjika was born with a weak constitution. Although she had consciously made up for it and done targeted training, she was still a little weaker than other martial artists of the same level. Therefore, the more she fought, the more anxious she became. The more she fought, the faster she felt her strength dropping. She wanted to risk using the 24 Blizzard Strikes several times, but was suppressed by the rationality and logic in her bones. She believed that He Lingling did not know about her congenital weakness. Therefore, there was more than a 70% chance that Yenjika would lose her composure because of her calmness. Perseverance was victory. After another round of wandering and tangling, He Lingling became more anxious. When Yenjika slid behind her, she suddenly exerted force on her feet, and her spine suddenly bounced back. She moved horizontally and bumped into Yenjika, who had just stood firm. Dragon form, flying dragon hits rock. Yenjika had no time to dodge, so she had to put up her arms in front of her to block the collision. A collision followed by a flip. He Lingling's spine undulated like a trembling great spear. Using her body as the shaft, she punched out with her left fist, explosively smashing towards her opponent's shoulder at close range. Dragon form, turning spear. Dragon form is also a spear form. Facing this, Yenjika took a deep breath. Instead of dodging in a hurry, she lowered her waist and sat down, visualizing a mountain peak covered with thousands of years of snow. A meteor fell from the sky and hit the peak, creating a deafening explosion that made hundreds of thousands of tons of snow collapse. Bam! She put her feet inward, turned her waist, and punched upward with her right hand like a hammer. Meteor fall, mega avalanche. Bam! When their fists collided, He Lingling's body swayed, while Yenjika seemed to have lost her center of gravity. She stumbled backward, but also avoided the dragon claw that followed closely behind. She took 2 steps back to stabilize her center of gravity, but according to the on-the-spot techniques that Lu Qing taught her during the sparring session, she took 2 more steps back to accumulate her strength. Seeing that her opponent's center of gravity was scattered, He Lingling was delighted. She exerted strength in her feet, pounced forward, and stretched out her dragon claw. Just when she thought she was about to succeed, Yenjika suddenly stopped. Her feet were like 2 nails, firmly planted in the ground. She leaned back, then swung forward. Her accumulated strength, meteor fall and mega avalanche burst out together, activating a powerful and direct heart-drilling hammer. Bam! Lingling's dragon claw couldn't hold Yenjika's fist, and was knocked away by her fierce strength. Yenjika used the rebound to whip out her left leg. When Yenjika hurriedly blocked with her leg, she took the opportunity to withdraw her leg, clenched her hands into fists, and hit her opponent's temples. Twin peaks piercing the ear. Lingling put up her arms and barely resisted. She felt that Yenjika was stronger than her. Yenjika didn't show any mercy. She suddenly tightened her right leg and kicked at her opponent. Lingling only had time to wriggle her spine and hurriedly withdraw her leg. Bam! Lingling's right leg was kicked away, and her lower body became unstable. Her hands tried to regain her center of gravity, and her body swayed. Yenjika took half a step forward, shook her right arm, and punched out, stopping at Lingling's neck. The referee raised his right hand and announced loudly, "Yenjika wins." Yenjika's mind went blank, and then she was hit by great joy, losing her usual gentleness and calmness. She turned around abruptly, looked at Lu Cheng, and waved her fist. "I won. I'm of amateur second pin." She didn't know why, but when she saw Lu Cheng's ecstatic expression and waving his fist more excitedly than her, she suddenly thought of a strange sentence in her heart. "Half of the medal belongs to me, and half to you." Chapter 182. In the arena, one would be disappointed while the other would be excited. Lingling and Yenjika respectively interpreted these two roles, showing the sadness and happiness of life. After venting most of her emotions, Yenjika turned around and walked to the supervisor. Then she realized that her muscles were tight, and her legs were weak. She had consumed more energy than in the last match. If I hadn't been able to take down Lingling with that wave of attacks, I would have most likely been the one to lose. She thought to herself with some relief and lingering fear. She stood by the side of the field with trembling legs, waiting for the competition supervisor to fill in the final confirmation form and stamp it. The waiting process allowed her to recover some of her strength. She was able to steadily walk to the higher level of the stands and meet up with Lu Cheng. "Are you happy and excited?" Lu Cheng held the girl and handed her an unscrewed energy drink with a smile. "Yes." Yenjika nodded hard and took the drink. She gulped it down with sweat on her forehead. Lu Cheng lowered his voice and said half jokingly and half expectantly, "Are you so excited that you want to kiss me as a celebration? I don't mind being a prop." Puff. Yenjika spat out the drink in her mouth onto half of Lu Cheng's face. She rolled her eyes at Lu Cheng, feeling both annoyed and amused at the same time. She said clearly, "You big bad wolf." Lu Cheng didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He took the tissue he prepared for his girlfriend and wiped his face clean first. "It's fine if you don't want to kiss me. Why did you spray my face? Humph, do you want to choke me?" Yenjika saw her boyfriend take out a new tissue and carefully wipe the sweat on her forehead and face. She closed her eyes and enjoyed the delicate gentleness. Lu Cheng laughed and said, "Then you'd better spray my face." After drying the sweat and resting for a few minutes, they came to the office of the Martial Arts Association next to the number 1 hall and handed the form to the staff. The staff found the video of the match, checked the result, and put it into the computer. Then they stamped the form and asked Yenjika to take photos and get a certificate next door. After some work, Yenjika got a certificate of amateur second pin with a unique serial number. Her rank could be found on the official website of the Martial Arts Association according to her name and serial number. She was a real amateur second pin martial artist. Lu Cheng felt like he had gotten the certificate himself. He looked at it fondly and praised, "Ko, your certificate photo is so beautiful. It's the first time I've seen someone take such a beautiful certificate photo. Well, it's hard to give up on one's natural beauty. You look good in any photo." Yenjika glared at him. "Chung, there's one thing I couldn't understand when I read novels. Now I finally understand why they use that word to describe boys." "What's that?" Lu Cheng asked curiously. Yenjika pretended to gnash his teeth and said, "What a glib tongue. Lu Cheng was a little embarrassed because he had misunderstood. But there was no need to talk about that kind of topic in public. He smiled and said, "This is a sincere compliment from the bottom of my heart. Look at my eyes, they are so sincere and magnanimous." Yenjika held back her laughter and tugged at him. All right, I believe you. Don't show off your exaggerated acting skills in front of others. Where are we going now?" Lu Qing knew when to stop and change the topic. Yenjika took out her cell phone from the pocket of her jacket and looked at the time. "Qing should be done soon. Let's wait for her." "Okay." Lu Qing felt relieved after his girlfriend had successfully reached the level of amateur second pin. He finally had the mood to cheer for the other teammates. Guo Qing was quite talented. Her strength was a little stronger than the boys of the same level, and she had a good foundation. Therefore, after practicing the mountain-moving fist, which was a suitable fighting style for her, her progress was very obvious. Among the teams competing for the amateur fourth pin, she could almost be considered as one of the strongest few. She defeated her opponents easily and won the competition with a perfect record. Now she only had to wait for the final battle in the evening. "Sister Wen's match is at 4:30. Let's go back to the hotel and have a good rest. I'm exhausted," Guo Qing said casually after meeting up with Lu Cheng and Yenjika. No matter how strong her body was and how much she suppressed her opponent, she was exhausted after fighting 5 matches in 2 days. She only wanted to recover as much as possible. The most important match in the evening. However, this arrangement was fair because her opponent had also fought 5 matches in the group stage. Yenjika had been focused on her own ranking and didn't pay attention to other matches. She only knew that Sun Jian had been eliminated. She asked curiously, "Do you think Sister Wen and the others have a good chance?" In the match in the morning, they all seemed to have met strong opponents and lost the match. "Yes, Ko. Don't you know? There are fewer amateur 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th pin fighters, so there are more places. The top 2 in each group can win," Guo Qing answered. This was the Martial Arts Association's way of encouraging the lower-level fighters to give more fans the confidence and motivation to pursue the higher amateur ranks. For example, in this year's amateur 4th pin competition, there were 296 participants, and 50 places were given. They were divided into 50 groups, and the top 2 in each group would win. The winner would get the ranking. The ratio was close to 17%. Compared to this, the probability of amateur second pin was less than 10%. Li Xiaowen, Wu Meng and Jiang Fuxing were not talented, but they were hardworking. They insisted on participating in the martial arts training every day, which made them better than most of the fighters who signed up for this competition. Besides, the 24 Blizzard Strikes was not an ordinary fighting style. As long as they were not too unlucky, they could get the certificate of amateur 4th pin after 2 or 3 tries. However, if they wanted to go higher, they would have to participate in martial arts club disciples and martial arts school students, which made it much more difficult. "I see." Yenjika's eyebrows relaxed. She was sincerely happy for her senior brothers and sisters. If she was happy, she would want others to be happy too. Li Mao and Lin Hua finished the competition earlier than Yenjika. They were lucky enough to win all the matches in their groups. Back in the hotel, Lu Qing saw Guo Qing go back to her room. He took out the room card and said to Yenjika as usual while opening the door, Go take a shower and get a massage. You can recover early in case there are any hidden injuries." As soon as he finished speaking, a few ideas popped into his mind. Later on, it would be a man and a woman alone in a hotel room with 2 beds. This time, Ko had already won the ranking, so there was no more competition. Thump, thump, thump. He didn't know why his heart suddenly beat faster. He felt his lips were a little dry, as if he was expecting and longing for something. Yenjika's body started to tremble in his slightly heavy breathing. She lowered her head and looked at the carpet beside her. She said in a low voice, Cheng, why don't you come to our room?" "What?" Lu Cheng was stunned at first, but then he understood what she meant. She wanted to have a massage with Guo Qing, so they wouldn't be alone anymore. A wave of disappointment hit him. He turned to look at Yenjika, only to see the girl sneaking a glance at him, and then quickly lowering her eyes like a dodging deer. She was a little shy and a little inexplicably scared. So cute. I'm not ready yet. A thought flashed through Lu Cheng's mind. He exhaled and smiled. Okay, send me a message after you take a shower. Yenjika's dimples blossomed little by little. She looked at Lu Cheng with sparkling eyes and said in a low voice, Cheng, what? Lu Cheng asked blankly. The girl smiled and didn't answer. She turned around gracefully, waved her hand, and walked into her room with light steps. When the door was closed, Lu Cheng's phone beeped with a message. He picked it up and saw Yenjika's blushing smile. You're so nice. Cheng, you're so nice. Lu Cheng connected the two sentences together. His disappointment disappeared and his smile reappeared. He was happy and satisfied. Back in his room, he turned on the tap and washed his face with cold water to relieve the throbbing in his head and his tiredness. Thunder Roar Zenon massage would also consume a lot of energy, but he still used the normal massage to recover. After such a long time of physical therapy, he had already reached his limit. Looking at his high-spirited but tired face in the mirror, Lu Cheng took a deep breath and made a self-examination. His attitude just now was not right. Maybe it was the influence of the intimacy and stimulation in the past 2 days. After Ku refused to be alone with him, he was so disappointed that it almost showed on his face. Boys have this kind of desire. They always want to go further and be more intimate with the girl they love. There's nothing wrong with that. But they can't show that they only want to do this kind of thing. More importantly, they should respect the girl's idea. Ku was a conservative girl, and it was her first love. They had been dating for only a month at most. At the beginning, because of the sudden confession, she needed to adjust her mood and accept it gradually. It was normal for her to be afraid of this kind of intimacy and want to adapt to it bit by bit. Now that they kissed passionately, it was because of his good performance that she was so kind to him. After silently repeating the word respect many times, Lu Cheng received a message from Yenjika that he could go now. Thanks to the existence of Guoqing, Lu Cheng's heart was still beating wildly when he massaged the muscles and bruises. But at least he was able to control himself and didn't need to go to the bathroom to calm down. Yenjika looked at him with a faint smile and said with concern, Don't use the tremor force this time. Anyway, Coach sure told us to focus on recovery tomorrow. No need to relieve the tiredness at a deep level. Lu Cheng couldn't use it even if he wanted to. He immediately agreed and continued his previous work. His eyes were focused and his hands were skillful. Are you two trying to irritate me, a single dog, to death? Guoqing looked for a while and suddenly pressed the pillow to her face. She whined. I can only wait for Sister Wen to come back so that we can have physical therapy. Yenjika snickered. Then you should find a boyfriend soon. But old Chiu doesn't like me. Guoqing answered sullenly. Yenjika knew that she said something wrong and quickly said, How about I give you a massage later? Sister Wen will be late when she comes back. You're not with Cheng? Guoqing took away the pillow and asked in confusion. Yenjika hummed. We don't have to stick together all the time. Cheng, I just want to borrow your girlfriend for 10 minutes. Guoqing put her hands together and begged pitifully. She also wanted to have a massage early to recover early so that she could face the final battle in a better state. Lu Cheng smiled and said, It's a special situation. I'll reluctantly agree. When it was almost 4 o'clock, the massage was over. Yenjika looked at Lu Cheng eagerly and whispered in his ear, I'll come to you after I give Cheng a massage. Okay. Lu Cheng smiled sincerely. Back in his room, he washed his face with cold water so that he wouldn't fall asleep due to tiredness and couldn't get up to open the door for the girl. After browsing the forum and Weibo for less than 20 minutes, he heard the expected knock on the door. When he opened the door, he was stunned as if there was a flash of light in front of his eyes. Yenjika had changed her clothes. She was wearing a white cotton skirt, a pink jacket, a pair of cute canvas shoes and a pair of skin-tight stockings, which made her legs look long, straight and hazy. Her black hair hung down like satin, and her black and thin eyebrows set off her bright eyes. Her cute nose was straight and delicate, and her pink lips were moist and attractive. Looking at Lu Cheng's stunned and slightly dazed eyes, Yenjika looked at herself up and down nervously. It's a little weird to wear socks like this. I wanted to wear boat socks, but isn't it a little cold? and there are some bruises on my legs that haven't faded yet. While talking, she found the burning gaze in Lu Cheng's eyes and suddenly understood. She looked to the side shyly and hummed in a low voice, "Big pervert." Lu Cheng's face turned red, and he looked away with difficulty. He coughed and was about to shamelessly say a few words of praise when Yin Zhika looked at her toes. Her eyes flashed, and her face was slightly red. She pretended to be relaxed and said, "Can I ask you out on a date?" She had already planned to take the initiative to propose a date to show her feelings for him in the past 2 days. "Date? Where are we going?" Lu Qing asked in surprise. Yin Zhika held Xiaoxiao in her arms and said proudly, "The ocean aquarium, of course. Didn't you miss it so much?" "Pfft, when did I miss it so much?" Lu Cheng's brain started to work. "It's not even 4:40 if we go there now. The tickets will stop at 5:30 and the aquarium will close at 6. More than an hour is enough for us to walk around. Let's go." Yin Zhika was about to turn around when she saw the tiredness in Lu Cheng's eyes. She immediately felt sorry for him. "Cheng, you look very tired." "I'm okay," Lu Cheng said with difficulty. Yin Zhika thought for a while and said with a faint smile, "Why don't you take a rest before we go? Just make it before 5 o'clock. Speaking of this, she chuckled. "My little massage expert will also help you massage your temples." Lu Qing checked his condition. He was afraid that he would not remember anything about marine life later. He could only smile and say, "Okay then." He turned sideways to let her into the house. Yin Zhika had just taken a step when she saw the familiar environment. Thinking of the previous massage, her heart suddenly beat faster. A man and a woman alone again. There's no match tonight. Will Chung lose control? If he can't control himself and does something bad to me, what should I do? To what extent should I tolerate him? To what extent? Yin Zhika only felt that her face was a little hot and her heart was beating a little faster. Her steps were a little difficult, but she still walked into the room in a daze. She did not dare to look at Lu Cheng and pointed to the bed by the window. "Lie down." Lu Cheng raised his head with a pillow and tried his best to lie inwards, leaving space for the girl to massage his temples. Yin Zhika pressed her skirt and sat on one knee, leaving only her feet in canvas shoes outside. Then she bent down and stretched out her hands, one on the original side, and the other on the top of Lu Cheng's head. At the same time, she rubbed his temples on both sides. The swelling pain in his temples was relieved, and the sweet fragrance of the girl entered his nose. Lu Cheng relaxed his mind, and the tiredness that he had been trying so hard to suppress gushed out like a tide. He fell into a deep sleep before he had time to enjoy the gentleness of the girl. While only 15 minutes of sleep, Yin Zhika's heart was still beating fast. She could not help but think of the scene where Lu Cheng pulled her down and kissed her. Should I struggle, or should I not resist? When similar thoughts flashed through her mind, she suddenly heard Lu Cheng's breathing become long and rhythmic. She looked carefully and found that her boyfriend had fallen asleep in just a few seconds. Is he so tired? Yin Zhika was quite surprised and distressed. As a girl from a martial arts family, she knew how much the tremor force consumed physical and mental strength. But she always had the impression that Lu Cheng's physical strength was limitless. So even when she saw her boyfriend's sleepy face, she subconsciously thought that it was just so, and that he was still far from being really tired. But now, when Lu Cheng's tiredness and fatigue were exposed in front of her eyes, she suddenly realized that her boyfriend also had a limit. He was also a human being who would be tired. Cousin's tremor punch can only hit 4 times. He used the tremor force and the normal hand to massage me for more than an hour. He doesn't really have limitless physical strength. I am his limit. Yin Zhika's eyes were slightly red. She gently bit her lips and unconsciously smiled. She reached out to touch Lu Cheng's eyebrows. This fool, he can't even sleep well and still frowns. Is he still worried about something in his dream? Is he worried that he overslept and can't catch up with the date at the aquarium? The girl was lost in thought. When she saw Lu Cheng's eyebrows relax because of her unconscious action, she suddenly raised the corner of her mouth and outlined a naughty smile. Her slender white fingers moved like playing a musical note, smoothing Lu Cheng's eyebrows little by little. When she saw that he was sleeping peacefully, and without the maturity when he woke up, She nodded with satisfaction. She let her fingers slide down and gently outlined the lines of his face. After a while, her smile became more and more obvious. Her fingers danced and lively, writing a word on each side of Lu Cheng's cheeks. Idiot. 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 Silently repeating it several times, Yenjika smiled like a little fox who had stolen a hen. Her fingers continued to slide down, rubbing her boyfriend's newly grown beard stubble, and brushing his lips. This is the bad guy who always bullies me. The girl stared at his lips and suddenly felt dizzy. She suddenly thought of Lu Cheng's usual sucking and licking of her lips. She thought of his hungry expression as if he was tasting the most delicious food in the world. She thought of his busy figure in the morning and his tired expression when he went out in the morning. Yenjika's eyes unconsciously became tipsy. Looking at the sleeping Lu Cheng, her pink lips slightly opened to make a silent declaration. Sleeping Beauty, I'm your prince. She played with her hair and lowered her head little by little. Her heart was beating fast and her pretty face was turning red inch by inch. Slowly, the girl's pink lips fell on Lu Cheng's mouth. She imitated him and carefully began to rub. After doing all this, she suddenly raised her head and touched her lips. She was a little confused and a little surprised and thought, why is his mouth so sweet? Looking down, Yenjika saw that Lu Cheng's mouth was full of the luster of her lip balm. No wonder the taste is so familiar, she laughed in a low voice. Her eyes were blurred and charming. At this time, the clouds moved and the sun came out. The light shone in through the window and sprinkled on the young boy who was sleeping soundly, and the shy girl who was looking at him. It was bright, quiet, and warm. When Lu Cheng woke up, it was already dark outside. Yenjika was sitting at the table with the lamp lit, bathing in the warm orange light. She was concentrating on the textbooks that she had forgotten to put back in the bag. Her back was slender and graceful. What time is it? Lu Cheng asked blankly. He picked up the phone beside him. His head was still a little swollen and empty. Hearing this, Yenjika turned around. But just as she glanced at him, she suddenly turned back and said with a red face, It's 6:10. 6:10. Lu Cheng's phone showed the same time. There were 2 missed calls from Sun Jian. After more than 10 seconds, he suddenly woke up and blamed himself. I overslept. The girl he loved took the initiative to invite him on a date, and he overslept. Yenjika turned her face and bit her lip. She said with a clear and happy smile, I didn't wake you up on purpose. I thought you were too tired. There will be a lot of chances in the future. Listening to her brisk tone, Lu Cheng was amused and his mood improved. That's right. There will be a lot of chances. He got out of bed and put on his shoes. He planned to wash his face and completely wake up before returning senior brother Sun Jian's call. Yenjika secretly glanced at his lips. When he brushed past her, she hurriedly turned back and looked at the textbooks seriously. Maybe it's time to check out. Their rooms were not due until tomorrow. But later, they would go to the martial arts arena for dinner and cheer for their teammates. After that, they would go back to the old campus together. Lu Cheng had just walked out of the bathroom. Before he could say anything, he heard a knock on the door, followed by Sun Jian's shout. Cheng, are you there? Yes, yes, yes. Lu Cheng hurriedly answered and turned the doorknob. Behind him, Yenjika had just packed up her textbooks and other things. She blushed and blurted out, Don't. Her don't came to an abrupt end. Lu Cheng had opened the door and looked at her in confusion. Sun Jian stood outside the door and said with a smile, Cheng, are you asleep? You didn't answer my call. It's time to check out. Go directly to the martial arts arena to cheer for them. Okay. Lu Cheng turned around and smiled. At this time, Sun Jian's eyes focused and he was stunned for a moment. Then he revealed a teasing smile and said, Cheng, yes? Lu Cheng responded. Sun Jian patted him on the shoulder and said in a heavy tone, Remember to wipe your mouth after eating. What? Lu Cheng was at a loss. Sun Jian raised his eyebrows and showed an I know expression. He didn't ask more. Humming a pop song, he walked to the elevator. Guoqing just said that Yenjika wasn't in her room. What's going on? Lu Cheng was confused and turned to the bathroom. Yenjika held her textbooks and lowered her head, showing her dimples. She said quickly, I'll go back to my room to tidy up. She ran past Lu Cheng and out of the room. Strange. Lu Qing shook his head and walked into the bathroom. He subconsciously looked at himself in the mirror. When he saw it, he was stunned. His lips were full of the familiar color of lipstick. How could this be? He came to his senses and took out his phone, feeling both annoyed and amused. He sent a message to Yen Zheka with a shocked emoji. "You female rogue." After sending the message, his face was full of smiles. He carefully tasted the remaining girl's taste on his lips again, and cleaned it up. Peach-flavored. Yen Zheka quickly replied with a pitiful emoji. "It's not my fault. It's all your fault, you big pervert. You want to play dirty even when you're asleep. I was rubbing for you. Then you pressed me down and kissed me in a daze." "Really?" Lu Qing replied with an emoji with a question mark on its head. "I can instinctively kiss Yen Zheka when I'm asleep? This is really a skill." Yen Zheka replied with a righteous face. "It's fake. Humph, if I didn't almost wake you up with a paper wipe, I wouldn't have left any evidence." Lu Qing burst into laughter. He realized that he was really kissed by the girl when he was asleep. He only regretted that he didn't wake up at that time to feel the beauty and seize the opportunity to kiss her back. In the competition at night, Jiang Fuxing met a good opponent and failed in the final test. Guoqing Li Xiaowen and Wu Mengshen passed smoothly and got the certificate of amateur fourth pin. Li Mao was lucky. His opponent in the last test was injured in the previous competition, so he seized the opportunity and defeated him. Therefore, he also became an amateur second pin fighter. Lin Hua, who was usually quiet, passed 6 tests in a row and was determined to be an amateur third pin fighter, which made her boyfriend Sun Jian envious. The next morning, Lu Qing continued to visualize the frozen ground map, memorizing the subtle changes of muscles, fascias, and viscera bit by bit. This was a painstaking effort, so he was not in a hurry. When the martial arts special training began, Geyser clapped his hands and said, "You all did well in this ranking event. You didn't disgrace me. Today we'll do recovery training." Speaking of this, he glanced at Lu Qing, Lin Ke, Yen Zheka, and the others and laughed. "By the way, Azure Dragon Squad applied for a special competition format." "What?" Lu Qing and the others were a little confused. Chapter 183. Because they had never encountered a special competition before. Although Lu Qing and the others were aware of the existence of such a thing and knew what the situation was, they couldn't react for a while. After a full 10 seconds, they came back to themselves one after another and blurted out, "Special competition format? What kind of formation does Azure Dragon Squad have? Aren't they a combination of several martial arts clubs? Why didn't they apply for it during the competition with Fearless Squad?" Facing the questions of Sun Jian, Li Mao and the others, Geyser answered casually, "According to the information from the organizing committee, Azure Dragon Squad doesn't have a formation." "What? Without a formation? Why did they apply for a special competition format?" Guoqing opened her eyes wide. Geyser chuckled. "Maybe they want to bully us because our substitutes are weaker." Of course, he wouldn't say that the main reason the opponent was worried was that the 2 main players at the professional level were too strong. They were also worried that Lu Qing's stamina was so abnormal that they couldn't see the limit of it. Li Mao and the others suddenly became silent. They vaguely understood Azure Dragon Squad's plan. They were frightened by Lu Qing's tremor punch and stamina. They knew that they had no chance of winning in a normal match, so they decided to use the special competition format. They wanted to send 2 professional 9th pin fighters to deal with Lu Qing and Lin Ke, and the last one to fight the amateurs. There was such a trick. Sun Jian frowned and said, "Isn't this an insult? Even a professional 9th pin fighter doesn't have 3 heads and 6 arms. How can he have the confidence to deal with 4 amateur fighters?" If everyone punched at the opponent's vital points at the same time, even a professional 9th pin fighter would be flustered. Haven't you heard that ants can bite an elephant to death? Although Sun Jian was the main fighter in name, he consciously put himself in the ranks of the substitutes. The others also didn't feel anything wrong. In their eyes, the real main fighters of the martial arts club were only Lin Ke and Lu Qing. "Do you think others are wooden blocks that will just stand there and let you besiege them?" Geyser sneered. Yen Zheka habitually raised her hand and said, But the challenge tournament is different from real combat. The space is limited. It's hard to create a temporary one-on-one or one-on-two situation with physical strength. She once saw a video of a professional fighter being chased by 7 or 8 amateur fighters. The former seemed to be running away crazily, but in fact, he was paying attention to the situation behind him. The fighters behind him didn't give up because they had more people. As time went by, they were divided into several small groups because of physical strength and speed. The distance between them was widened to an extent that they couldn't ignore. As a result, the professional ninth pin fighter fought back. He suddenly paused and pounced backward. Before the second small group could catch up with him, he used all his strength to kill one of the 2 enemies in the front and cripple the other. After this process was repeated, the thugs no longer dared to blindly chase after him. They always maintained a good distance. However, in this way, they had no choice but to use the slowest speed as the standard. They could only watch the enemy leisurely walk away. This was the actual combat strategy of a professional ninth pin fighter when he was besieged. But it was almost impossible to use it in the challenge tournament. Yinjika's question was also Lu Cheng's idea. Although he was now a top professional ninth pin fighter, if he was besieged by more than 3 strong amateur fighters, he could only choose to run and fight. He didn't have the field control skills like the ninth pin of the dark sect. He could use the advantage of his physical strength to create short one-on-one opportunities. In the challenge tournament, he might reach the edge after running for more than 10 steps. Geyser laughed and said, "The specific situation needs to be analyzed. First, some martial arts are better at dealing with besieges, such as Golden Bell Shield and Lion's Roar. Second, there is more than one battlefield in the challenge tournament. The opponent can use the other 2 places as obstacles to create distance. When Lin Ke and Lu Cheng are fighting with the professional ninth pin fighter, will you be more cautious when approaching? Will you be worried about being hurt? The opponent is a professional ninth pin fighter, so he will have fewer concerns in this respect. With the difference, he will have the opportunity to take advantage of the temporary chaos. And if you are slower, he will have the time and ability to besiege Lu Cheng or Lin Ke. So, although they may not be able to gain the upper hand, at least they have the possibility of winning." After listening to the coach's general explanation, Lu Cheng and the others thoroughly understood the thoughts of the Azure Dragon squad. They knew that they were not whimsical, but intended to rely on the advantage of average strength to seek victory in the chaos. Understanding was one thing, but Li Mao and Lin Hua were still a little indignant. They felt that they were despised and looked down upon. Even Yinjika, who was always good-tempered, slightly pouted her mouth. "I don't know if I can master the Frost Force by Sunday." Lu Cheng looked at his girlfriend and thought to himself, this was not an impossible task. As long as he could memorize and master the subtle changes in his body when he visualized the frozen ground map before Friday, it would not be too difficult for him to master the frozen river map that he had been comprehending every day for the remaining 2 days. While thinking, he could not help but look at Lin Quebec. He wanted to know what level his brother-in-law was at after he recovered from his injury. Compared to the past, Lin Ke's vigorous chi and blood had weakened a lot. There was a sense of peace in his silence and coldness. Obviously, he had touched the threshold of the dance stage. But it was hard to say how much he had gained. At this time, Geyser clapped his hands and said, "Those who participated in the ranking event should do recovery training. The rest of you should do the same. We'll go back and discuss the Azure Dragon squad later. The information has been sent to your mailbox. Don't look for videos with special competition rules. It's useless. Look for videos of amateur fighters besieging professional ninth pin fighters. It's better to look for those with obstacles. Summarize the experience and lessons." This morning, after Lu Cheng completed the fixed daily training, he spent more time on memorizing and mastering the corresponding changes in his body. He felt that he had made a lot of progress. After a sweet and busy day, he went back to the dormitory. After washing up, he turned on the computer and logged into QQ. He sent a message to Yinjika. "Ko, have you finished reading the information?" As their relationship grew deeper day by day, they became more intimate. He called Yinjika more and more in a variety of ways. But as the first nickname, Coach Yen had a special meaning. As for the information about the Azure Dragon Squad, he finished reading it in the afternoon class. But Yen Zhuka was in a professional class, so she had to listen carefully. She could only take a look at it. The girl immediately replied to the cat that threw the salted fish in her hand. Call me Coach Yen. Yes, yes, yes. Have you finished reading the information, Coach Yen? Lu Qing snickered. Yen Zhuka only had 2 short classes in the evening. She went back to the dormitory with Zhong Yinru at around 8 o'clock to study the information and videos seriously. Unlike the usual self-study, she waited for Lu Qing to finish class and took a walk. This showed that she attached great importance to the weekend competition. After all, no matter what the arrangement was, she would be able to play. Finished reading. Yen Zhuka replied with a blank expression. It's just like what Coach Shi said. Mo Zizong's ancestor was a disciple of Daxing Temple. He passed down a martial art similar to Lion's Roar. Zhu Tao has been practicing Iron Shirt since he was young. His hard body skills are quite famous in Songcheng. They were all professional 9th pin fighters who were good at dealing with sieges. Don't worry. When the time comes, your brother and I will hold Mo Zizong and Zhu Tao back. During the competition, they can't do whatever they want. Lu Qing replied. Among the 4 fighters in the Azure Dragon Squad, Mo Zizong was the strongest. Not only was he born with great strength, but he also practiced throwing elephant skill. Without Thunder Roar Zen, Lu Qing felt that he could only beat him 4 to 6 times. As for the other 3, Zhu Tao had the Iron Mantle hard kung fu, and his punches and kicks were straightforward, which made him difficult to deal with. Deng Hua was famous for his tiger roaring iron fist. As for Su Zheng, he was relatively weak, but his foundation in 8 trigrams palm was very solid. Yen Zhuka replied with an emoji of bright eyes. Humph, when was I worried? I have already summarized several experiences of sieges. Lu Qing replied with an emoji of a naughty smile. Coach Yen, please give me some advice. Beg me, and I will tell you. Yen Zhuka replied with a smiley emoji of covering mouth. Men and women didn't care much about face when they were flirting. Lu Qing immediately begged with an emoji of prostrating himself on the ground. Yen Zhuka replied with a thoughtful emoji of crossing her hands under her chin. First, always keep a good distance from each other. Second, don't attack at the same time. It's best to have a gap of 1 second, in case the opponent throws out all his martial arts. Third, don't rush. As long as you and my brother have enough time, you can definitely defeat your opponents. They should be the ones who are anxious. Lu Qing praised Coach Yen as he read, and then helped her to perfect the details through discussion and analysis. At this time, there was a new post in his fan forum from Lush Natural Generating Light: Sunday afternoon at 3:30 p.m., Songcheng TV station will broadcast the key battle of the 3rd group, Songcheng University Martial Arts Club vs Azure Dragon Squad, special competition format. And in the campus forum of Songcheng University, the administrator also put a message at the top of each subsection. Sunday afternoon at 3:30 p.m., Martial Arts Club will fight Azure Dragon Squad at home, key battle of the qualifying round. This time, the TV station and the school's publicity department finally started to promote. In the blink of an eye, under the eager anticipation of Yen Xiaoling and the others, it was the afternoon of the weekend. A few hundred kilometers away, in the office of Shanbei University Martial Arts Club, Su Wanyan saw junior brother Peng, who was always in a daze, sitting there and looking at the computer leisurely. Junior brother Peng, you didn't go out to play? He asked in surprise. Peng Lian smiled and said, I was watching a preliminaries. What's there to watch? We are going to Huahai for the national finals next week. Su Wanyan was puzzled. At this critical time, as the pillar of the martial arts club, how could junior brother Peng have the leisure to watch a preliminaries? Peng Lian laughed in a low voice. This could be one of the tough ones in the next round. The taste of the starry sky was unforgettable, so he had always been paying attention to it. Thinking about it, he fell into his daily daze. Chapter 184. In the live broadcast room of Songcheng TV station, The screen switched to the stands on both sides of the Songqing University Martial Arts Stadium. There were already a sea of people there, most of them young and energetic men and women. So popular. The commentator and host Feng Juexiao couldn't help but sigh. Listen to the shouts, listen to the movements. How is this a low-level preliminaries? If you say it's the North-South regional competition, I'm afraid the audience in front of the TV will believe it. His partner, the guest of the competition, the 38-year-old Dan stage mighty one Ganli laughed. I've always heard that Songqing University's martial arts atmosphere is average. Today, I see that it's very good. Except for the number of seats, it's not much worse than our home ground. He was a member of Songqing's Forever Club. He was the main substitute for the North-South regional competition, which was also the preparatory competition. He was of professional 7th pin. Because of his easygoing personality and naturally smiling face, he was quite popular in the province, and was often invited by the TV station as a guest. Feng Juexiao flipped through the information in his hand, and said while looking forward, "Old Gon, actually the rumors you heard are not wrong. It's just that he's a little old." Songqing University Martial Arts Club has been defeated repeatedly in the regional competition of the National University Martial Arts competitions in the past few years. They've been eliminated again and again, and their popularity is getting lower and lower. They're lucky if they can get a few hundred students to watch an official competition. Last year, when Lin Ke joined the school, they spent a lot of effort to promote the competition. But in the end, speaking of this, he lightly patted the table like a storyteller, shook his head and said, "In the end, they still couldn't break through the group competition. At that time I thought it's over. Songqing University needs at least 3 years to restore its martial arts atmosphere. Who knew that Lu Qing would appear out of nowhere this year? He's talented and can perform on the spot. Not only that, but he also knows how to create big news. I heard that he caught a student who jumped off a building a while ago, which caused a sensation in the school. It was on the 3rd page of Songqing Metropolis Daily, and even the portal website reprinted it. Then the students of Songqing University are curious. They thought that they should at least go to the scene to see what Lu Qing looks like and how good his martial arts are. And this year, the martial arts club swept through the group competition of the preliminaries, and even the fearless squad became their sacrifice. After a while, their popularity suddenly gathered together. Ganli said cooperatively. As the saying goes, a single tree can't hold up a forest, but 2 trees make a forest. With Lu Qing, Lin Ke won't be alone. I've seen the highlights of their previous matches. I have to say, I don't know where Coach Shi from Songqing University found Lu Qing. Such a martial arts genius is hard to come by. Besides, he and Lin Ke are still freshmen. Maybe next year, or maybe the year after. The difficulty of the preliminaries in the Songqing division will only depend on one thing: whether the Songqing University Martial Arts Club will participate or not. I've talked with my teammates in the club. They all agree that Lin Ke has already touched the threshold of the Dan stage, and has a great chance of advancing within this year. As for Lu Qing, as long as he can build up his foundation, this obstacle won't be able to stop him. At the earliest next year, at the latest the year after next year, Songqing University Martial Arts Club will be led by 2 fighters of the Dan stage. Maybe 1 or 2 fighters of the professional 9th pin will emerge among the others. Yan Xiaoling, who was watching the live broadcast, quickly posted on the forum, "Hey, today's commentator is so shameless. He keeps flattering our Lu Qing and Songqing University Martial Arts Club. I'm embarrassed. But I want to say, please continue, don't stop." What about this year? Old Gon, how far do you think Songqing University Martial Arts Club will go in the end? Feng Juexiao controlled the direction of the topic, so as not to divert it to outer space. This was the professional quality of a host. Ganli smiled and said, "I don't dare to make any promises. In this day and age, it's easy to get slapped in the face if you make any promises. I can only say this. After winning today's match, as long as Songqing University Martial Arts Club doesn't mess around, there won't be any problem for them to advance as the first in the group. However, once they advance, it will depend on the situation of the draw. To be honest, if they were to meet the undamaged fearless squad again, They might not necessarily win. As for the other groups, there are those who are stronger than Fearless Squad, and there are also those who are on the same level as them. Haha, old Gon, you've become a wily old fox in the guest world. Fang Juexiao teased. In other words, today's match will determine at least one person in the third group to get the qualification. And it's good to get the qualification. After the qualification, they can immediately get a broadcasting share of 250,000 yuan. For martial arts clubs or teams, it's almost a profit. Each of the 8 qualified teams would get a share of 250,000 from the broadcast. Every time they advanced, they would get more. Entering the semifinals would get 350,000 plus a still stance visualization technique. Entering the finals would get 550,000 plus a martial arts technique. Being the champion of their division would get an additional 600,000, and a dance stage unique skill that was compatible with the visualization technique. Ganlu silently fired a shot. If it's just the quarterfinals, it won't be profitable. Why? Fang Juexiao roughly knew the reason, but he still had to ask to satisfy the curiosity of the audience. Take the Azure Dragon squad as an example. The 4 professional 9th pin fighters in the squad come from 4 different martial arts schools. They all have a fixed monthly salary. This can't be included in the cost of the preliminaries, right? As an experienced person, Ganlu revealed the truth and said, "Of course not. This is the remuneration for guiding the students and guarding against challenges. But since they're participating in the preliminaries, who will pay for the ointment and soup they used during this period? They have to protect their bodies. Who will pay for the loss if they can't fight in the small challenge tournament? Martial arts competitions have a lot of risks. They should at least give something for the last match, right? They should at least give some bonus if they win a match, right? In this way, Azure Dragon Squad will have to spend at least 100,000 yuan for the 3 months of group matches. When they qualify and get the broadcasting share, don't you feel embarrassed not to give them some bonus? According to the rules, they should at least take half of the 250,000 yuan and deduct the cost of the remaining. It's hard to say if they'll make a profit. It's only because of the rise of online broadcasting that the TV stations are giving more generous money. In the past, they had to get a place in the division to make a profit. Fang Juexiao nodded and said, "Yes. Thank you, Master Gon, for solving this puzzle for us. However, the situation of each team in the group stage is different. Some spend 100,000 yuan to buy 3 months of advertisements. Some spend 100,000 yuan to buy a rare opportunity to train their soldiers in actual combat, and some are purely doing voluntary work for their members. They don't get a single cent, so they don't have any expenses. Yes, I'm talking about Songqing University Martial Arts Club. Alright, the competition is about to begin. Let's turn our attention back to the arena. As for the special competition format, Master Gon and I have talked a lot about it, so I won't go into details. I just want to emphasize that the spirit of martial arts is to display the strongest and break through the strongest. I see the referee on the arena. The next match is worth 250,000 yuan. There's money for qualifying in the group matches? Lu Qing looked at Sun Jian in surprise. He had never thought that he would be able to earn money from the preliminaries. Sun Jian lowered his voice and said, "I heard from the uncle in the school office that as long as we can qualify and get a share of the broadcast, most of it will go to the martial arts club. Take the first 250,000 yuan as an example. The plan is that the school will get 100,000 yuan for daily management and maintenance expenses. Coach Sher will get 50,000 yuan as a bonus. You and Lin K are professional fighters, so each of you will get 20,000 yuan. Me, Li Mao, Yin Zheka and Hua Hua will be substitutes. Well, I'm a substitute, so each of us will get 10,000 yuan. Guo Qing will get 5,000 yuan. Li Xiaowen will get 2,000 yuan. Jiang Fuxing, Wu Meng, and Kai Zoming will get 1,000 yuan. And the rest will go to the martial arts club's coffers. As a fighter of amateur third pin, Lin Hua had a great chance to compete today. 20,000 yuan? Lu Qing couldn't help but gasp. He was worried about where to find the money for the dance stage and dating expenses during the summer vacation. Who would have thought that 20,000 yuan would fall from the sky? Although he still had more than 12,000 yuan in private savings, there was still a long way to go before the summer vacation. He still had so many dates to go on. Who knew how much would be left by then? Especially when he planned to take Yinjika to some fun places during the May Day holiday. As for the wear and tear of his martial arts shoes and daily expenses of ointment, Yinjika quietly covered all of them. Although she wouldn't deliberately split the money between them during dates, she would always advise Lu Cheng to be frugal in other aspects. She was also very willing to spend money for him. When Kai Zongming heard about this by chance, he even praised her, saying that one-sided giving wouldn't last long. Only by giving and receiving would one know how to cherish. 20,000 yuan. Lu Cheng didn't look in the mirror, but he knew that his eyes must be shining. Previously, during the preliminaries, he had used his pure desire for victory to create his fighting spirit. But now in his eyes, the Azure Dragon battle team was like a walking pile of cash. A bright future for him to advance to the Dan stage. And a beautiful date between him and Yinjika. In addition, the Azure Dragon squad had slightly offended him because of the special competition system they applied. Yesterday afternoon, Yinjika specially asked Lin Hua, Sun Jian, and the others to practice the basic principles of besieging. In other words, there was no date this week. The Azure Dragon squad was the worst. Fight. Must fight. Win. Must win. He felt that his nostrils were snorting, and his fighting spirit was at the peak. He didn't need others to motivate him, and he didn't need Coach Sher's persuasion. It just so happened that he had mastered the frozen river diagram today. At this time, Geezer Sher clapped his hands, waking Yinjika and the others from their meditation. He smiled and said, "Today's team is Lin Ke, Lu Cheng, Sun Jian, Li Mao, Yinjika, and Lin Hua. 6 against 3. In the away team's locker room, Mo Zizong put down his phone and stood up. He glanced at Deng Hua, Zhu Tao, and the others and began to motivate them before the match. He closed his eyes and said in a low voice, "I know that not many people are optimistic about us in this match. If we didn't apply for the special competition system, I wouldn't be optimistic about it either. Even if we did, the current bets are betting that we will lose." Speaking of this, he pointed to the outside of the locker room. "Did you hear that? The cheers outside are so excited that they don't even think that this is an evenly matched match. Can you imagine?" In the TV station's pre-match analysis, they were all talking about what would happen if Songqing University Martial Arts Club won. Do you know? Songqing University may already be discussing the distribution of the broadcasting bonus. What does this mean? It means that in their eyes, we are not the Azure Dragon, but a loach. They can trample on us as they want. There is no possibility of us losing the match. With a boom, the other members of the Azure Dragon squad all stood up, their faces full of anger. This was an undisguised contempt. This was extremely infuriating contempt. They were thinking about what would happen if they won before the match. Did they think that we were dead? Mo Zizong raised his arms, clenched his fists, and said loudly, "Go out and let them know that we are not to be trifled with. Go out and tear off their pride and beat their arrogance. This is our battle to prove ourselves." Deng Hua, Zhu Tao, and the others immediately followed and shouted, "The battle to prove ourselves." In front of the computer, Yin Xiaoling had quickly changed her sitting position. She focused on the screen and forgot to reply. In the Shanbei University Martial Arts Club, Su Wanyan also stayed and sat beside Peng Liyun, watching the live broadcast with a solemn expression. Did junior brother Peng just say that Lu Cheng will be my nemesis? Chapter 185. After announcing the name list, Geezer Sher smiled and said, "I won't talk about the specifics. Yin explained it well yesterday. It's quite comprehensive. You deserve to be a good student who can get a scholarship while doing special training." Hearing this, there was a burst of laughter in the locker room. Yinjika was so embarrassed that her face turned red. She wanted to find a hole to hide in. During the practice yesterday afternoon, she took a notebook and described all kinds of induction, deduction, and reasoning situations and gave responses. Beside her, Lu Cheng, who was trying hard to hold back his laughter, clearly remembered the girl's focused look and serious tone at that time. I won't talk about the importance of keeping a suitable distance. Their intention is clear. They want to divide us into 3 battlefields. Through their own interweaving, they can create local advantages and accumulate victory little by little. We can't be led by the nose by them and be isolated. We have to contact each other and connect the 3 battlefields into one. Only in this way can we play to our advantage. The following are divided into these situations. First of all, Lu Cheng and Lin Ke have to show their deterrence when they are isolated. They have to chase after their opponents and try to force them to come here. If they can't, they have to come here themselves. This is divided into several situations according to the different opponents and the situation. Second, Lin Ke is divided and limited. Third, Lu Cheng is divided and limited. Fourth, the effect of the opponent's elephant trumpet is beyond expectations. Ninth, unexpected changes happen. The situation is very passive. Lu Cheng and Lin Ke, you don't need to care about our victory or defeat. But you can use this to pretend to rescue us and set up a counterattack trap to create a chance for us to fight head-on. 10th, in the situation of chaos, senior brother Sun Jian, senior brother Li Mao, senior sister Lin Hua, Qing, we don't have to deal with the predetermined enemy. We can take advantage of the chaos to help Lu Cheng or Lin Ke and make the players who are fighting them lose their mobility. In short, the most important point is that as long as we can defeat one of their professional 9th pin, no matter who it is, we can still win the Azure Dragon squad even if all the substitutes leave the field. This principle must be grasped flexibly. Lu Cheng had heard that serious men were the most handsome. Yesterday afternoon, he learned that serious girls were not only beautiful, but also super cute. Yen Zhika seemed to radiate brilliance at that time. Therefore, he was a little jealous and stopped Li Mao and the others from calling him Coach Yen when they were joking. He requested that they only call him Coach Yen. This was a term of endearment that only belonged to him. Yen Zhika blushed when she saw the faint smile on her silent and cold cousin's face. She wished she could stomp her feet and snort at him. However, it was not the right time to flirt with her boyfriend in public. She could only force herself to hold it in. Looking down at her toes, she said softly, "I'm sorry. Coach, sure. I'm only summarizing the most likely scenario. It's not detailed enough." As she spoke, her left hand reached behind Lu Cheng and gently pinched him. I didn't laugh." Lu Cheng looked at the girl with a wronged expression. "I've endured so much. Humph. We agreed to share blessings and hardships together." Yen Zhika glanced at him and pouted. She was a little proud of herself. She felt that her shyness and embarrassment had been relieved a lot. It's so good to have a boyfriend. As a lonely old man, Geezer sure pretended not to see their interaction. He smiled and said, "The situation on the battlefield is ever-changing. Even if you can summarize it all, they can't remember it. This kind of arrangement should be rough and not detailed. The key is to grasp the key points and play flexibly. The reason why this old man doesn't really like to guide you guys on how to play a specific match is because I want you to learn how to deal with it yourselves. You don't have to play in the arena all the time. There will always be a coach helping to analyze and prepare in advance. You'll remember what you've been through and you'll make fewer mistakes in the future." Lu Cheng listened thoughtfully and nodded slightly. He was indeed a master who was born in real combat. "Well, go out. It's time to test your results." Geezer sure turned around and walked to the door. He laughed in his heart. "I can't wait for you to lose the fight and accept the setback. Why would I help you analyze the siege situation and point out the problems in your preparation? Naive. Childish. I'll summarize it after the fight." For a moment, Geezer sure felt that he was the biggest spy in the martial arts club. As soon as the martial arts club members stepped out of the locker room, the organized audience immediately cheered. "Songqing University, go for it." Following that, the live announcer introduced the list of fighters. Songqing University Martial Arts Club's fighter today is Lin Ke. At this point, he deliberately paused for a moment. As a result, the nearly 10,000 students in the stands all stood up with a hubbub and shouted in unison, "Go for it, Lin Ke." Their voices overlapped and shook the sky. Even Lin Ke, who was reserved and silent, couldn't help but tremble slightly. When the shouts died down, the announcer continued to read, "Lu Cheng." His voice suddenly rose and was full of passion. This ignited the enthusiasm of the audience again. The students hit the seats with inflatable cheering sticks to match the tsunami of shouts. "Go for it, Lu Cheng!" The loud and high-spirited sound waves entered Lu Cheng's ears. His body trembled and secreted more adrenaline. He felt the support of his classmates and suddenly felt a heavy pressure in his heart. They were so optimistic and excited that they didn't take the Azure Dragon squad seriously at all. They seemed to think that with the complete martial arts club of him and Lin Kei, they could easily defeat the opponent. Senior brother Sun Jian and the others were also thinking about how to use the broadcasting bonus after it was distributed. If the anticipated victory didn't come as expected, if he failed to live up to everyone's support, the atmosphere at the scene would be unimaginable. This seemed to be a match that couldn't be lost. One side of the burden was on his shoulders, while the other side was on Lin Kei's shoulders. In a short time, too many thoughts of wanting to win and fearing to lose appeared in Lu Cheng's mind. He couldn't help but turn to look at Lin Kei and Yenjika. Lin Kei's eyes were dark. Except for the strong fighting spirit on the surface, they were like an ice lake with no ripples. Yenjika's big eyes showed some excitement, and some worry. She also felt that everyone was too optimistic and the atmosphere was impetuous. They looked at each other and nodded to each other, understanding that they had the same worries. However, Lu Cheng also calmed down because of this. Anyway, not everyone was excited, and there were still some sober companions. So what if I want to win and fear to lose? I want to win every match and fear to lose. Lu Cheng took a breath and took the lead to walk past Coach Shi to the arena. At this time, the announcer was still reading the list of fighters. The names Li Mao, Yenjika, Sun Jian, and Lin Hua echoed in the martial arts arena. It was the first time for them to experience such interactive enthusiasm. Their hearts beat faster, and their blood boiled. Li Mao's body trembled, and he was a little nervous. Fortunately, he knew that he was the assistant today, not the protagonist. His failure wouldn't affect the final result, so he restrained himself. On the other side of the arena, Mo Zizong, Deng Hua, and Zhu Tao were wearing indigo martial arts suits with green dragons around them. They were full of fighting spirit as they climbed the stone steps. Looking at the four black-clothed referees on the arena, Mo Zizong closed his eyes and recalled his mobilization in the locker room. He deliberately exaggerated some words to stir up the emotions of the team members. This was not only for today's match, but also for the long-term development. Before the joint establishment of the Azure Dragon Squad, each of the four martial arts schools only had one aged 9th pin, and one robust 9th pin martial arts school. Not to mention the chain martial arts schools of high-ranked Dan stage families. Even Hongluo Martial Arts School could firmly suppress them by more than one level. After forming the Azure Dragon Squad, the reputation of Mo Zizong and the others spread in the martial arts circle of Songcheng. They overshadowed the Hongluo Martial Arts School, and were recognized as the second most popular team to advance in the group. They had a good reputation and a lot of benefits. If they lost today's match, the preliminaries of the Azure Dragon Squad would come to an end. It was hard to say whether they could form a team again next year. It was easy to go from frugality to extravagance, but difficult to go from extravagance to frugality. Mo Zizong, who was used to doing things as the captain of the Azure Dragon Squad, didn't want to go back to the past. He didn't want to go back to being an ordinary deputy master of a martial arts school. He wanted to unite the people with the preliminaries, and win over the disciples of various martial arts schools. He wanted them to understand that they were weak when they were divided, but strong when they were united. He wanted to promote the four martial arts schools to form the Azure Dragon Club. When he opened his eyes, Lu Cheng and the others were already standing in front of him. There were 6 of them. After applying for the special competition format, they had to face the advantage of the enemy's number. If I had the strength of Lu Cheng or Lin Kei, everything wouldn't be so difficult. Mo Zizong glanced at his opponents with a little envy. Because there were too many people, there was no time for talking in the special competition format. There was only 1 minute for adjustment. After Li Mao and the others calmed down, the head referee waved his right hand. Start. As soon as he finished speaking, the 3 professional fighters of the Azure Dragon Squad rushed out. Although Mo Zizong was known for his strength, his speed was not slow at all. His muscles were full of explosive power. He was like a running elephant. Deng Hua and Zhu Tao deliberately stayed half a step behind. From the perspective of the big screen, they were like a sharp arrow shot out, and Mo Zizong was the tip of the arrow. Facing this, Lu Cheng and Lin Ke rushed forward according to the analysis of Coach Yan in advance. Yan Zhika and the others kept a distance from each other, and followed closely behind. When the two sides were about to collide, Mo Zizong suddenly stood still. His legs firmly planted on the ground, like a giant elephant calmly crossing a river. His muscles wriggled, and his abdomen swelled and then contracted. Woo! A horrible sound of elephant trumpet suddenly came out. Lu Qing felt his head buzzing. His qi and blood were rolling in his chest, and his footsteps slowed down. Yan Zhika and the other amateur fighters were even worse. Their footwork was disordered and they were dizzy. Fortunately, they were prepared for Mo Zizong's elephant trumpet. The tips of their tongues were always against their teeth. At this time, they gently bit and felt a stinging pain. They immediately woke up and endured the slight discomfort of their bodies to keep a good distance. At this time, Mo Zizong's abdomen swelled again. His face turned red and then white, and his throat suddenly squirmed. Woo! Another deafening elephant trumpet rang in the ears of Lu Cheng, Li Mao and the others. They had just bitten the tip of their tongues, but Lin Ke, whose kung fu was already ingrained in his bones, was able to resist most of the impact with just a twitch of his ears. Mo Zizong had made elephant trumpet twice in a row. This was an ability he had never shown before. After the elephant trumpet, Mo Zizong stopped in place. His body trembled and his face turned pale. He was unable to attack for a while. The reason why he didn't use it before was that even if he used it, he couldn't seize the opportunity to attack the enemy. But this time, he had two teammates by his side. Deng Hua and Zhu Tao, who had practiced many times, first counteracted the elephant trumpet by exhaling. Then they immediately bit the tips of their tongues to stay awake. They stepped forward and passed Mo Zizong. One of them blocked Lin Ke, and the other rushed to Sun Jian. Chapter 186. Zhu Tao was bald and bearded, which made him look ferocious. But in reality, he was a good-tempered otaku who spent most of his time juggling the martial arts club and his family. He wanted to take the opportunity to attack Lu Cheng and get rid of him, but he knew clearly that Mo Zizong's second elephant trumpet was forced, and its power was far less than normal. It could only bully amateur fighters. For Lu Cheng, who had reached the level of professional ninth pin, it wouldn't affect him too much. At most he would feel dizzy, nauseous, and lose balance for a few seconds. In this case, he had no way to defeat Lu Cheng. If he was careless, he would be forced to confront Lu Cheng head-on, which was not worth the loss. Lu Cheng was a fighter who had mastered silence skill and had great control over his body. Zhu Tao took a step forward and stomped with all his strength. Like a cheetah, he pounced in front of Sun Jian. His muscles bulged, propping up his greenish-black skin. Twisting his waist and back, he threw out an ordinary yet ferocious uppercut punch. He had watched the highlights of Songqing University Martial Arts Club's previous matches, and found the videos of several substitutes participating in the ranking event. He knew that Sun Jian was the strongest among the 4 amateur fighters, although he had the worst luck and failed to pass the ranking event. Sun Jian was hit by the elephant trumpet, and his tongue had returned to its original position. He didn't have time to bite it again. At this time, he felt like he was stepping on cotton. He was floating up and down and could barely keep himself from falling. Naturally, he was only feeling dizzy and uncomfortable, not unconscious. Facing Zhu Tao's attack, he reacted in time. Under the situation where he couldn't lower his waist and couldn't exert strength with his legs, he bounced his back, shook his shoulders, and threw out his right fist. Bang! Sun Jian's hasty and weak defense was blown away by Zhu Tao's punch, and Zhu Tao rushed to his front. He wanted to dodge, but he lost his sense of balance and almost fell. Yan Zhika, Li Mao, and Lin Hua tried to help him, but their feet were weak and they staggered, so they couldn't help in time. They could only watch the bald man slightly tilting his body, followed up with his left arm, and hit Sun Jian's lower abdomen with a hook. Puff. Zhu Tao withdrew his strength in time to avoid being disturbed by the referee. Even so, Sun Jian was still in pain and fell to the ground with his hands covering his abdomen. The referee next to him pulled him away and sent him out of the ring, so that he wouldn't be accidentally hurt by the following punches and kicks. When he left the battlefield and ran to the edge of the ring, another referee immediately followed him to fill in the gap. This was the reason why at least 4 referees were needed. When Zhu Tao seized the opportunity and successfully attacked, Deng Hua, who had a Mohican hairstyle, also encountered Lin Quebec. Although he didn't know that Lin Kei's unique skill was called Meteor Force, he knew that it wasn't something to be trifled with just by seeing that it could make Wei Xingtian, a professional 8th pin dance stage expert, tremble all over and stiffen up. Therefore, after a feint in front of him, he slid his feet and flashed to Lin Kei's side. His body slightly arched, his muscles trembled, and his waist and back swayed as he struck an aggressive blast punch. Roar. When this punch came out, there seemed to be a tiger's roar in the air. In fact, Deng Hua's muscles shook, the airflow and the movement of his own breathing were superimposed. It showed its power, so it was called Tiger's Roaring Steel Fist. Lin Kei seemed to be anxious to stop Zhu Tao, so he didn't resist. His spine bounced and his body moved sideways, dodging and pouncing forward. Opportunity. Deng Hua's heart moved. His 10 toes hooked on the ground, and with a strange force, he caught up with Lin Kei in one step. In the tiger's roaring wind, Deng Hua threw a punch to his opponent's right shoulder. He grasped the timing very well. Lin Kei's right foot had just stepped out, so he couldn't kick to the side and back. His arm obviously couldn't block the punch, so it was too late to attack the opponent's vital part to force him to retreat. As a warrior who had experienced hundreds of battles, Deng Hua's heart could not help but flash with a trace of joy. If he could take advantage of Lin Kei's panic to take him down, then he would be the one who had contributed the most today, and could boast about it for several years. Puff. His punch had just hit Lin Kei, but he felt his opponent's body tremble, and his chi and blood seemed to be withdrawn. His shoulder suddenly sank, as if it was bouncing and shaking, and most of the power was removed. Lin Kei leaned forward to the right, but his body was like a seesaw. His chi and blood expanded, his waist and back twisted, and his spine undulated. Then his left leg swept backward. Bam! This kick stirred up a strong gust of wind, making it impossible for Deng Hua, who was already used to this move, to dodge. Deng Hua didn't dare to underestimate it. He lowered his waist, got into a good stance, and his left hand like a hammer. Bam! He only felt that his opponent's strength was so great that it was completely beyond his expectations. His left arm was kicked directly to his ribs, and it hurt so much that he could barely keep his center of gravity. Yin-yang twist, 2 people's strength. While his body was shaking, Lin Kei turned around with the momentum of the sweep. His temples suddenly bulged, as if there was a volcano brewing in his body. Along with the meteor in his mind, Lin Kei hurriedly swung his arm and quickly threw a punch between Deng Hua's chest and abdomen. He didn't hold back at all. From the very beginning, he used all his strength in a fake rescue and a real counterattack. Deng Hua endured the pain in his ribs, took a deep breath, and lowered his right arm in time to block his opponent's fist. Bam! He felt like he was hit by an iron hammer, and the strong shock quickly spread throughout his body. It seemed that even his teeth began to tremble, as if they were going to fall out of his gums. Deng Hua felt that every muscle, fascia, and bone in his body was unstable, and he couldn't exert force for a short time. But he spat out the breath he had just inhaled and visualized the corresponding picture, creating a reverse whirlpool in his body like a wind tunnel to eliminate most of the shock. While his chi and blood were surging, Deng Hua endured the pain and suddenly shrank his head, curling his body, and narrowly avoided Lin Kei's sweeping left arm whip. He didn't dare to fight head-on with his opponent, so he took the opportunity to dodge to the side like a civet cat. It wasn't until he had successfully escaped that he suddenly rejoiced that he had narrowly escaped death. Lin Kei no longer pretended. He stamped his feet, and his spine undulated like a dragon, and suddenly rushed to the side. His left arm was already raised, and his elbow was the angle of attack. Deng Hua kept dodging and wandering. Although the range of his movement was getting smaller and smaller under the opponent's active attack, he didn't show any sign of defeat in a short time. At this moment, Zhu Tao had rushed to the front of Yanjika. His black and blue skin bulged, and he suddenly punched with both feet, ignoring Li Mao and Lin Hua behind him. After getting rid of Sun Jian, of course, he would deal with this beauty, who could forcibly pull back her center of gravity and achieve the primary level of meditation. And it was said that she was Lu Cheng's girlfriend, which could effectively affect the strong enemy's state of mind. When there were only 2 amateur fighters left in Songqing University Martial Arts Club, he wouldn't be afraid at all. Even if there were 2 of amateur first pin, it would be a piece of cake. The first 2 elephant trumpet, and the first attack would decide the result. Bang! The blue bricks under Zhu Tao's feet cracked. His fist exploded the air and hit like a real iron hammer. Yanjika had begun to recover. She knew that as long as she could block this attack, she would be rescued by her companions. So she didn't panic. She took a deep breath to bear the pain, lowered her waist, and crossed her arms. Bang! She had just blocked Zhu Tao's fist and made a step back in time, trying to dissipate the force. Under normal circumstances, she should have been able to block this punch and failed because of the opponent's follow-up attack. But now she had just recovered from the elephant trumpet and hadn't completely adjusted her condition, so she didn't have enough strength to use and dissipate the force. After a moment of stagnation, she couldn't bear it and took another step back. Her light body staggered. Lu Qing had recovered a while before Zhu Tao quickly defeated Sun Jian. At this time, seeing Yanjika in danger, he seemed to rush over without thinking. Like an eagle with open wings, he was going to attack the enemy's back, besieging Wei to rescue Zhao. Seeing this, Mo Zizong, who had recovered, was happy. He knew that Lu Qing was worried about his girlfriend, and made the most unwise choice. His strong legs suddenly rushed to Li Mao, who was attacking Zhu Tao. He wanted to take advantage of the remaining effect of the elephant trumpet, to finish him quickly. As long as Lu Qing couldn't defeat Zhu Tao in 1 or 2 attacks, the situation would be reversed. Zhu Tao was not a fool. Once Lu Qing attacked, he would definitely give up attacking Yanjika and turn to a wandering battle instead of a head-on fight. You are still too young and inexperienced. At this moment he saw Lu Qing, who was charging forward, stomp on the ground, shattering the green bricks. Using the force of the stomp, Lu Qing turned around and pounced on him aggressively. It was as if Lu Qing had long been prepared and expected this. He grasped the timing perfectly, making it impossible for him to dodge in time. According to Coach Yan's instructions, once she was in danger, he should not rush to rescue her. That would only cause chaos and give the opponent the opportunity to take advantage of the situation. The best choice was to fake rescue and counterattack. A thought flashed through Lu Qing's mind. He had already adjusted his muscles when he pounced on Zhu Tao. Now he was ready. Facing Lu Qing, whose eyes were cold and hard to dodge, Mo Zizong took a deep breath and gathered his strength, ready to fight. He could see that although Lu Qing could continuously throw out tremor punch, the effect of each tremor punch was weaker than Lin Kei's. I don't believe that I can't withstand a tremor punch. I don't believe that I can't find a chance to dodge. He concentrated on visualizing. His body muscles trembled, and a deep, elephant trumpet came out of his abdomen, which didn't affect the opponent. He held his hands together as if he was holding a giant elephant. He exerted strength under his feet, straightened his back, and fiercely threw out to Lu Qing. Crack! The blue bricks around his feet cracked like a spider web. Throwing elephant skill. Strength of 1 elephant. Lu Qing's eyes were like a frozen lake. In his mind, he had visualized the scene of a surging river. He rushed to the front of Mo Zizong, paused and stepped on the ground. He twisted his waist and sprung his spine to shoot out a mountain breaker cannon. At the same time, the cold current in his body surged and rushed to his right fist. The great river in his heart froze rapidly inch by inch. Even the splashing waves in the air stopped, sparkling and translucent. He threw out a punch. Frost force. Chapter 187. Bang. With a dull sound, The big screen in the stadium froze at the place where Lu Cheng and Mo Zizong's fists collided. There seemed to be rings of impact spreading outward. Some of the audience forgot the panic when Sun Jian was knocked out of the ring. They stared at the screen attentively, forgetting to cheer for Lu Cheng. The exchange of blows only lasted for a moment, but Mo Zizong felt as if he had passed a long century. Guarding against the impact of the shock, he only felt that the rolling cold current was instilled into his body by the opponent's power. In an instant, his arms were frozen stiff and spread to all parts of his body, making him feel as if he had stayed up all night naked in a world of ice and snow. He couldn't help but tremble, and his lips turned blue. There was only one thought in his mind. So cold. So cold. Lu Cheng was not relaxed either. The Frost Force was not a unique skill to enhance strength, and Mo Zizong was born with great strength, which could be called outstanding even among all the professional ninth pin fighters. At most, he was inferior to Yi Yaoting. In addition, he practiced the throwing elephant skill, which was famous for enhancing strength. When he attacked with full strength, he was almost as powerful as Jiang Guosheng of Hongluo Martial Arts School. The power of Jiang Guosheng's outburst was said to be somewhat like the power of Dan's stage. Therefore, Lu Cheng immediately felt a terrible force that could lift an elephant and throw it out. He didn't dare to resist for fear of hurting his right arm. After judging that it was not enough to reduce the force by retreating, he straightened his back and took the initiative to swing his center of gravity backward. He stepped back 3 steps in a row. At the beginning, he cracked the black bricks, but now the ground was intact. Until then, Mo Zizong heard his heart beating strongly. Thump, 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 thump. It kept spurting out hot blood to relieve the coldness in his body. What kind of martial arts is this? I can't resist at all. I can't guard against it at all. He looked at Lu Cheng in astonishment and wanted to chase, but his body was trembling and his legs were stiff. It was difficult for him to even take a step forward. He could only hope that the temperature of his blood could help him recover as soon as possible. What kind of martial arts is this? Noticing that Lu Cheng rushed to Mo Zizong, Zhu Tao no longer hesitated. He stepped forward and caught up with Yin Zheka, who was stumbling backward. He wanted to defeat her before she regained her balance. With a bang, he shook his right arm and threw a straight punch at his opponent's neck. Seeing that she couldn't resist, Yin Zheka decided to give up her center of gravity. She leaned back and kicked high, followed by the lazy donkey roll. At this time, Li Mao and Lin Hua arrived in time. One of them tightened his thigh muscles and pulled out a whip kick, kicking between Zhu Tao's legs from behind. The other one lowered his waist and did a downward chop, attacking the opponent's temple from the side. They were all vital points, yet he didn't hesitate. In this situation, Zhu Tao seemed to have anticipated it. He straightened his back and his dark skin swelled. He moved a small step to the left, so that Li Mao's kick hit his thigh and Lin Hua's punch hit his right shoulder. Puff! Puff! Both of their attacks failed to penetrate the enemy's iron cloth shirt. Zhu Tao, on the other hand, borrowed some of the force and pounced forward. When he brushed past Yin Zheka, he stretched out his hands, grabbed her right arm, and threw her out of the ring. Yin Zheka felt like she was flying in the air. She forced herself to calm down and adjusted her body in the air. She controlled part of her center of gravity. Then she straightened her spine and put strength in her waist. She turned over and landed lightly. She didn't fall. The only problem was that she was outside the ring. I'm so angry, but I have to keep smiling. I can't affect Cheng and the others. She pursed her lips and walked around the ring to the seats of the home team while watching the match on the field. No matter how much preparation and analysis was done, it was always not enough in the ever-changing actual combat. Zhu Tao was relieved when he succeeded in one move. He took a few steps forward, turned around, and pounced on Li Mao and Lin Hua. This time, he didn't need to worry about being besieged. 2 amateur fighters couldn't be called besieging. At this time, Lu Cheng released most of his strength and gathered the rest into the soles of his feet. In exchange, he made a cracking sound and a more ferocious attack. Both the students on the scene and the audience in front of the computer and TV were surprised that Mo Zizong didn't seize the opportunity when Lu Cheng lost his center of gravity and staggered back. But Yin Xiaoling and Brahman thought of Peng Qingguang in the last match and nodded as if they understood everything. Yes, tremor punch. Only Peng Liyun in the office of Shanbei University Martial Arts Club frowned slightly and stared at Mo Zizong's pale lips. While pouncing on his opponent, who had not yet fully recovered, Lu Qing quickly adjusted the subtle changes in his body corresponding to the frozen ground map, so that some of his muscles, fascia, and joints were in a ready state. Since he had only started practicing the Thunder Roar Zen for a month, his martial arts had not yet been refined into his bones and body, so he could only rely on the breathing method to indirectly affect his internal organs. Therefore, he needed a certain amount of time to prepare to use the Frost Force, which was difficult to achieve in one go. And because he had just started to practice this force today, he couldn't combine it with the Thunder Roar Zen, so he couldn't use the Severe Warning, which was the ultimate move of the latter. Within 2 steps, Lu Qing rushed to Mo Zizong. He had adjusted his body and was ready. In his mind, he once again visualized the surging river with turbid waves. Crack! Lu Qing stepped on the ground and completely crushed a cracked brick. He bent his ankle joint, straightened his knee, straightened his back, swung his shoulder, and made a seemingly ordinary forward punch. But in his body, the forces that had been brewing burst out at the same time. They overlapped with each other and created a sense of coldness, which made the power of frost suddenly magnified and turned into a cold wave, rolling to the front of his fist. In the visualization, the cold wave came, and the river with horrible kinetic energy was frozen in an instant. It was covered with layers of ice, and the waves flying in the air were no exception. They were like delicate works of art. Stimulated by this, Lu Qing's muscles, viscera, and fascia regenerated subtle changes. Then there was a strange wave, which condensed the coldness rushing to the front of his fist and turned it into ice. Ice Frost Force and Frost Force. Bang! When Lu Qing made the forward punch, there seemed to be white air around his fist, like the kind that was exhaled in the cold winter. This was a sign that he was not skilled enough in Frost Force, so the force leaked out. The sign of the real primary level was that when he made a punch, all the force would be restrained. Facing this punch, thinking of the experience just now, Mo Zizong really didn't want to block it, so as to avoid another cold hell. But he had no choice. The numbness of his legs had just disappeared. If he hurriedly dodged, Lu Qing would seize the opportunity to give him a fierce punch. He suddenly took a deep breath, and a low elephant sound came from his abdomen again. But the sound was full of trembling, like a tropical animal coming to the extreme north. Lowering his waist and back, Mo Zizong bulged his stiff arm muscles and crossed his arms in front of his body. Bang! The punch hit the center. The cold current poured into Mo Zizong's body, making him taste the horrible feeling of his body being frozen quickly, and even losing his consciousness. Cold! 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 His teeth chattered involuntarily. He only felt that the temperature of his body was rapidly decreasing. His heart beat violently, resisting the invasion of the cold. Frost Force. In the office of Shanbei University Martial Arts Club, Peng Liyun whispered to himself. Frost Force? Su Wanyan looked at junior brother Peng beside him in astonishment. The computer screen in front of them flashed with snowflakes and made a buzzing sound, as if it was affected by an external electromagnetic field. When Yan Zhika was thrown out of the ring, Lin Ke, who was constantly reducing the range of Deng Hua's fighting, suddenly stopped, as if he had fallen into a state of silence. He took a breath, and seemed to withdraw his force, spirit, and qi and blood. After suppressing them to a certain extent, they suddenly burst out and gushed out. In the midst of the gushing, Lin Ke suddenly pounced forward, like a leopard that finally caught the opportunity to hunt. Deng Hua thought that the safe distance and reaction time were all gone under this pounce. Before he could dodge, Lin Ke had already arrived in front of him. The feeling of the dance stage. He was horrified. He took a deep breath, and without even thinking about it, he quickly raised his arms in front of him. He had just put on a defensive posture when Lin Ke's fist hit him like a meteor. It was extraordinarily fast, mixed with the remaining gushing intent. Bang! The moment the two came into contact, Deng Hua felt as if he had been struck by a bomb. The shockwave roared, shaking his entire body, causing every bone in his body to shake. Every muscle in his body trembled, and every part of his blood and chi was roiling. What's more, it also triggered the residual effect of the last fight, which affected his internal organs, making him feel extremely uncomfortable and nauseous. Therefore, he tried to use the method to offset part of the shock, but his efforts were delayed by half a beat. He could only watch Lin Ke punch him again. Facing Zhu Tao's counterattack, Li Mao suppressed the nervousness in his heart and didn't fight head-on. He slid to the side and cooperated with Lin Hua to hit his throat and temple. Relying on his iron shirt, Zhu Tao suddenly shrank his head, lowered his body, and bumped into Li Mao's fist sideways. Clang! Due to the change of height and position, Lin Hua's fist hit him squarely on the forehead, making a sound like a hand patting an ancient bell. Lin Hua's fist fell on his neck, but was bounced off by his thick neck, which had swelled up after he breathed in. Bang! Zhu Tao bumped into Li Mao and made him stagger, forcing him to take a step back and barely stabilize himself. Then the bald man, relying on his iron shirt and accurate prediction, resisted Lin Hua's kick and strode forward. He swung his hands and hit Lin Hua fiercely. Li Mao couldn't dodge. After blocking 2 kicks, he was in a precarious situation. At this moment, Lin Hua caught up with him. He tightened his foot and whipped his leg, kicking Zhu Tao's vital part. At the critical moment, Zhu Tao didn't block the attack head-on. He slid his feet, spun his body, and nimbly dodged to Li Mao's back. Taking a hit from the horse's hind leg, he forcibly closed the distance and punched his opponent's spine. He didn't use any strength, but the referee had pulled Li Mao away and asked him to leave the arena. In just a short time, Lin Hua was the only one left among the 4 amateur warriors. When she saw Zhu Tao coming at her, she instinctively chose to move and dodge. Zhu Tao was satisfied, knowing that he had won. As long as Mo Zizong and Deng Hua didn't lose in a few moves, things would be easy. He glanced at the other 2 battlefields and saw Mo Zizong's strong and sturdy figure standing there, which made people feel at ease. At this time he was crossing his hands in front of him, blocking Lu Cheng's fist. Good. I'll attack you from both sides. Zhu Tao thought, but his eyes suddenly froze. Because Lu Cheng had turned around and stopped looking at Mo Zizong. Is he stupid? Zhu Tao stopped in his tracks. He wanted to see Mo Zizong give Lu Cheng a fierce blow behind his back, but he only saw that the captain, who was usually called Elephant, was obviously trembling, and his face was strangely pale. What's wrong? Zhu Tao forgot that he had to catch up with Lin Hua and stopped in shock. Lu Cheng bent his body and fixed his eyes on Zhu Tao. Behind him, Mo Zizong fell to the ground, making a loud noise and splashing some stones. Lu Zhishan killed Zheng Guanxi with 3 punches. This is the challenge tournament, and I only used 2 punches. How can I defeat Elephant like this? While Zhu Tao was in shock, he heard another sound of someone falling to the ground. He turned his head and saw Deng Hua lying on the arena, retching. Lin Ke turned his body and locked his eyes on Zhu Tao like Lu Cheng. His eyes were cold and reserved. One was Lu Cheng, and the other was Lin Quebec. Zhu Tao couldn't help but feel desperate. What the hell is going on? Lin Hua also noticed the change of the situation. She stood not far away and looked at Zhu Tao with embarrassment. When Lin Ke and Lu Cheng attack me from both sides, it will be dangerous. I can't get close to them. If I join them, I will be a burden. In this case, I have nothing to do in the arena. What should I do? She seriously considered this difficult question. Chapter 188. Lin Hua didn't hesitate for long because when Lu Cheng and Lin Ke pounced on Zhu Tao from both sides like a wolf and a tiger, this fierce-looking bald tough guy swelled his dark skin, bounced his spine, and suddenly ran to the side like a rabbit being shot by an arrow. Then he jumped out of the ring. The cheers of the audience stopped abruptly, and there was a moment of silence. Unexpectedly, the awe-inspiring Zhu Tao didn't even dare to try and directly admitted defeat. He was in a hurry, as if he was escaping from a dangerous place. Under the ring, Zhu Tao didn't feel ashamed at all. Instead, he felt lucky that he made a prompt decision without hesitation. If it was just Lu Cheng alone, no matter whether he had fought hard or not, he wouldn't dare to say that he had a good chance of winning. The horror of the tremor punch in succession was still fresh in people's minds. And now, Lin Ke was eyeing him like a tiger watching its prey. If he didn't admit defeat, would he stay in the ring and wait for the new year? It was not that he was timid, but that the enemy was too strong and too terrible. A wise man submits to circumstances. He thought about raising his hand to admit defeat to the referee. But considering that he had just thrown Lu Cheng's girlfriend out, he was worried that Lu Cheng would pounce on him before he could make a move. He would pretend not to know and beat him up first. So it was safer to dodge first and take the initiative to jump out of the ring. Lu Cheng stopped where Zhu Tao was standing and watched him jump off the ring with amusement. He didn't expect that this tough-looking bald tough guy would admit defeat so quickly. He couldn't help but sigh to Lin Ke next to him. Actually, I'm close to my limit. Zhu Tao didn't need to be so scared. This was not a lie. He had just learned the Frost Force and was not familiar enough, so the consumption was much greater than expected. What he had prepared before was to use the Frost Force followed by the Thunder Roar Zen, but his plan was disrupted by the second elephant trumpet. In order to turn the situation around in time, he had to go all out and use the second Frost Force. Until now, he felt that his spirit was a little empty. However, Lu Cheng didn't think that it was lucky to scare Zhu Tao away with only his momentum. If they really fought, he could still use the Thunder Roar Zen, and his other martial arts were also at the level of professional ninth pin. Besides, he still had his brother-in-law, didn't he? Wouldn't it be great to be his assistant, slacking off and practicing the Taiping boxing? Hearing Lu Cheng's exclamation, Lin Ke turned to look at him and spat out 3 words without changing his expression. Me too. I too am I? Lu Cheng was stunned at first, then he came to his senses and looked at his brother-in-law in shock. He saw that his brother-in-law's eyes were dark and clear, and he didn't look like he was joking. What a coincidence. Lu Cheng couldn't help but laugh dryly. At this time, the referee raised his right hand and loudly announced, "In the end, Songqing University Martial Arts Club wins." The audience let out a cheer, cheering for the victory, but also regretting that the battle had ended so quickly. The match just now was exciting enough and thrilling enough. The only problem was that it was too short. It's not satisfying. It's not satisfying. With the referee's announcement, Lu Cheng restrained all other emotions, and only the joy of victory and the shouts of bonus echoed in his heart. He raised his hand and applauded to the students on both sides of the stands. In the warm applause, he walked briskly back to the seats of the home team, clenched his fists, and bumped with Sun Jian Li Mao, and the others one by one. When he came to Yen Zhika, he resisted the urge to hug the girl. Taking care of her thin face, he whispered with a smile, "It's all thanks to Coach Yan's ample preparation in advance." Yen Zhika smiled brightly, and her 2 rows of teeth were crystal clear and neat. She slightly raised her chin and said, "Humph. Now you know that you won't lose by following me, right?" After saying this, she turned her head and looked to the side, pretending to be normal and said, "Your Frost Force is also very powerful." Hearing Yen Zhika's praise, Lu Cheng suddenly felt satisfied and proud, as if he was happier than winning the battle just now. Moreover, even without the Jindan, the Frost Force now truly belonged to him. The qualifying bonus should be no problem, he said happily. At this moment, he had a flash of inspiration and took the opportunity to make an invitation. "After 3 months of hard work, I finally got a good result. How about we take the bonus and have a trip nearby on the 1st of May to celebrate?" Yen Zhika looked up and her pretty face flushed. "I have to think about it." "Think about what?" Lu Cheng asked half-jokingly. He was in a very good mood. For this kind of thing, the girl didn't directly refuse, which meant that there was a great chance. "Humph. It depends on whether I like the tourist spot you choose or not. It depends on whether you are honest or not." Yen Zhika snorted, but there was no anger in her eyes. Geezer sure looked at them silently and couldn't help but curse. How can there be no setbacks? This bastard still doesn't come to please me? He only knows how to follow Yen Zhika around. I'd rather raise a dog than accept this disciple. On the side of the Azure Dragon squad, Mo Zitsung and Deng Hua had been helped off the stage. One was pale and trembling, and the other was dizzy, walking unsteadily and frequently retching. While the substitutes listened to the unscrupulous cheers of the audience, They all looked sad. They felt depressed, but they also had a sense of common hatred. Songcheng University Martial Arts Club is indeed very strong. Lin Ke and Lu Cheng are indeed very strong. But we did have a little chance just now. It's all my fault that I underestimated Lu Cheng. I didn't expect that he had mastered such a strange force. Mo Zitsong took a deep breath and exhaled the chill, seriously self-reviewing. In fact, he was convinced of his defeat in the previous match. After being forced to fight recklessly, he really had no chance to defeat Lu Cheng's chill force. But he couldn't say it out loud. He still had to keep hope, so that it would be easier to integrate the 4 martial arts clubs. Deng Hua followed. I also made a mistake. Ugh, I didn't expect that Lin Ke could control his chi, blood and force. Anyway, although we lost this match, it's still honorable. If we come again next year, we may have a chance to advance in the group. Zhu Tao also put gold on his face. But when he recalled the battle just now, he still felt a lingering fear. He only felt that Lu Cheng and Lin Ke's eyes were still locked on him. When they met again, they would probably be in the dance stage. In the live broadcast room of Songcheng TV station, Fang Juexiao smiled bitterly. This match is really wonderful, but it's too short. How long has it been since the fight started? Is it more than a minute? Almost. Ganlu laughed. Isn't there a backup match? It's fine as long as this match is wonderful. You're right. Fang Juexiao nodded and said, Old Gon, I always feel that the 2 punches Lu Cheng gave Mo Zitsong were a little strange. Can you give us an analysis? Ganlu nodded and said, Okay, let's look at the screen. This is a screenshot. We can clearly see that Mo Zitsong's lips are blue and his face is pale, as if he was frostbitten. And Lu Cheng usually uses the 24 blizzard strikes of the unique skills of the ice sect. We have reason to believe that he has a supernatural ability or a special talent. He has already mastered one of the core forces of the unique skills of the ice sect before reaching the dance stage. Let me explain. Martial arts moves are relatively simple, without any fancy tricks before reaching the high-ranked dance stage. The core is the technique of exerting force. Every sect has its own secret. Once it's combined with visualization and raised to the level of force, it's the core part of a unique skill. You can say that no matter which branch of the ice sect Lu Cheng belongs to, he can be called a core disciple. I see. Fang Juexiao echoed. What about Lin Ke? I feel that the ability he showed today is much better than before. Ganlu gave an affirmative answer. Yes, he has grasped the feeling of withdraw. I said before that he could reach the dance stage within this year. Now I have to correct it. Maybe in the first half of this year. While listening to the explanation in the video, Yin Xiaoling posted excitedly, Hey, who can explain to me in detail what the core force of the ice sect is? She at D Unparalleled Dragon King, and rode to the arena in the main post. Unparalleled Dragon King replied quickly, Aren't you just in charge of being a love-struck fool? Why are you asking this? Eternal Nightfall. Yin Xiaoling replied immediately, Don't look down on me. I'm not only a love-struck fool, I'm also a love-struck fool. No, I'm also a self-deprecator. She was often ridiculed in the past, but she never got angry. Instead, she was very cooperative and dared to self-deprecate. In the fan forum of Lu Cheng, she had the title of love-struck fool. I have nothing to say to that. As expected of the Northern Land love-struck fool, Brahmin, Unparalleled Dragon King, and other familiar IDs expressed their admiration one by one. In the end, Unparalleled Dragon King explained again in detail. The so-called something-something force is the essence of a unique skill. Without it, even if one learns physical invulnerability moves, it's just a facade. At most, one can only wield 30 to 40% of the original power. Only when a martial artist reaches the dance stage will they come into contact with this kind of thing. At that time, they will have enough control over their body and the quality of their physical body to cultivate. The peak of the body refinement realm can barely give it a try, but it will be very difficult for the force produced to have special effects such as cold or burning. Lu Cheng was able to create the effect of freezing the body before reaching the peak of the body refining stage. This means that he probably has a supernatural ability related to ice or some other special talent. Damn, I remember that he has the supernatural ability of fire. What the hell? Eternal Nightfall, Yin Xiaoling replied with a spinning expression. Thank you, Dragon King. Although I am not very clear about it, I know that it is very, very powerful. Little Nightfall, I'm even sadder. My idol has actually mastered the core force of the ice sect. I had hoped that he would join the Longhu Club after graduation and inherit the unique skills of the fire sect, said Brahmin. No matter what, he has mastered this technique. His future is limitless. Niechichi and the others made similar sentiments. Okamoto's fan suddenly popped up and said, Am I the only one who noticed that Songqing University Martial Arts Club has a substitute girl who can score 9 points? You're not the only one. I was just about to send it when the competition ended. My Buddhist name is Luan Lai replied. I've been thinking about taking the college entrance exam this year, going to Songqing University and joining the martial arts club. When Yin Xiaoling saw this reply, she chuckled and muttered to herself, I don't need to think. She tagged Unparalleled Dragon King again and asked happily, How far do you think they can go in the preliminaries? They have no problem getting through the group stage. But their opponents are getting stronger and stronger. I'm afraid there is no hope for them to go further. Sigh, there is still more than a month until the knockout match in May. Who knows how strong Lu Cheng and Lin Ke will be by then? I can't be so sure. Unparalleled Dragon King didn't dare to make a judgment. Xu Rui, a reporter from Songqing TV station, first interviewed the Azure Dragon squad who were in a hurry to leave. Then she came to the locker room of the home team and waited at the door to interview them one by one. The first one to open the door was Lin Quebec, looking at him who was clean and quiet. Xu Rui's heart skipped a beat. She remembered the cold humor last time. She asked cautiously, Lin Ke, is it convenient for you to accept the interview? Lin Ke nodded, indicating that it was okay. Xu Rui chose her words carefully and said, Lin Ke, when you pounced on Deng Hua just now, it was more explosive than usual. Is it because you have grasped the feeling of withdraw ? Lin Ke answered seriously. It's a secret. Secret? Secret my ass. Who can't see it? Xu Rui had the urge to go crazy. Chapter 189. Keep smiling, keep smiling. Xu Rui put on a perfect professional smile and said, Then Lin Ke, what do you think of your performance in this match? Are you satisfied, or do you think it's not perfect enough? After asking, she blinked and looked at Lin Ke innocently, praying that he would stop making lame jokes. Lin Ke was silent for more than 10 seconds before he slowly said, Just passed. Just passed? Why would you make such an evaluation? To be able to defeat a martial artist of the same level in such a short time, no matter how you evaluate it, it's enough to be called pretty good. Xu Rui keenly grasped this point and continued asking. Lin Ke said solemnly, When I used the first tremor punch, I wasn't fast enough and he dodged it. Although he had used the yin-yang twist to remove some of the force and borrowed some of it, his martial arts were not the means of the immortals. His own level was also not enough to remove some of the force, and he could only rely on his body to resist. Because of this, he was affected to a certain extent. After using the meteor force with the leg sweep, he had to catch his breath and was half a beat slower, allowing Deng Hua to dodge it. If he had handled it better, Deng Hua might have been defeated by him in the first counterattack. With the physical fitness of the peak of the body refining stage, it's already very good for you to be able to do this. You don't have to take it to heart, right? Xu Rui said as her eyebrows relaxed. She vaguely felt that she had grasped Lin Ke's conversational skills. Just mention the specific details of the battle. If there's a deficiency, you have to find the reason. If the physical fitness is not good enough, you have to work hard to improve your body. Lin Ke said slowly. Xu Rui rolled her eyes and smiled sweetly. So, Student Lin means that you want to enter the dance stage as soon as possible and break the limits of your body? Yes. Lin Ke was neither humble nor arrogant. He simply nodded his head calmly. Haha, This young master is not that difficult to deal with. If I know his temper, I'll follow his instructions. I'm indeed a rare reporter. Xu Rui praised herself in her heart and asked curiously, your tremor punch seems to be a little different from Lu Cheng's tremor punch. Your skills to remove and borrow force are also different from the 24 blizzard strikes. Can you tell us their names? As soon as she finished speaking, her heart skipped a beat. She felt that she had asked the wrong question. Lin Kei's answer seemed to be predictable. As expected, Lin Kei replied faintly, that's right. It's a secret. What F** king secrecy? Xu Rui wanted to cover her face with her hands and let out a long sigh. But she had to maintain her composure in front of the camera. She could only watch as Lin Kei nodded his head slightly and walked away from the locker room. After calming herself down, Xu Rui continued to interview the members of the martial arts club, who had just come out of the locker room. For example, she asked Geezer Sure what his goal was for the final ranking in the preliminaries, Sun Jian's thoughts on being defeated by the second elephant trumpet, and Lin Hua's feelings on how he had come back from the dead at the last moment. Li Mao and the others were very excited because they were about to receive a large amount of broadcasting bonus. They were very cooperative with the interview, which made Xu Rui feel relaxed. The only thing that puzzled her was that Coach Sure of Songqing University Martial Arts Club seemed to lack interest in the goal after the preliminaries. Thank you for your cooperation, Guoqing. Towards the end, Xu Rui said with a smile. Guoqing's face lit up as she hurriedly said, why are you being so polite? It's my duty, my duty. Xu Rui glanced at the locker room door a few steps away and asked casually, is Lu Qing still inside? Yes. Guoqing answered straightforwardly. Then her expression became a little strange as she added, Reporter Xu, are you waiting to interview Lu Qing? Yes, he is one of the biggest contributors to today's victory. Xu Rui said without hesitation. Guoqing opened her mouth as if she wanted to say something, but in the end, only a meaningful reminder came out. It may take a long time. It doesn't matter. It's not a live broadcast. Xu Rui smiled carelessly. The previous interview with the Azure Dragon squad was a live broadcast after the match, so she had to hurry. But now the TV station had switched to a prepared match, so the interview with the Martial Arts Club of Songqing University was put at the end. In other words, this was not a live broadcast. Since it's not a live broadcast, of course I can wait. How much longer could he dawdle? Guoqing looked at her deeply and said nothing more, leaving the martial arts club. In the locker room, Lu Qing was still applying ointment to Yanzhika's arm. In the previous match, Yanzhika actually didn't fight too fiercely. Her arms were only bruised because she took Zhu Tao's punch head-on. In addition, when she was thrown out, a pair of finger marks were left on her arms, which slightly tore her fascia and muscles. But in total, there were not many places that needed to be treated. Lu Qing was even more relaxed. In the whole match, he only hit Mo Zizong with his fist twice and crushed a few black bricks under his feet. With their strength and number of internal injuries, it would take at most a few minutes to apply the ointment and rub the ointment. But after the shower, Lu Qing still took more than 10 minutes to finish. Seeing that the locker room was getting quieter and quieter, and all the others had left, he suddenly sped up and finished the rub. It's your turn to help me. He smiled and handed the ointment to Yanzhika. Yanzhika rolled her eyes at him and snorted. You're too slow. Everyone knew what Lu Qing was thinking. Although she said so, she still took the jar of ointment, dug out a piece, and finished applying the ointment. In less than 2 minutes, everything was done. When Yanzhika was about to withdraw her hand, she heard Lu Qing chuckle. I have another injury. Where? Yanzhika blinked and asked blankly and concernedly. Here. Lu Qing opened his mouth and put the tip of his tongue to the gap between his teeth. I was bitten when I was fighting against the elephant trumpet. I need a kiss from Coach Yin to heal. Yanzhika was angry and amused. She pursed her lips, showing her dimples, and dug a little bit of ointment with her little finger. Come on, I'll apply it for you. Cheng is getting more and more shameless. While speaking, her hand had already reached over. Lu Qing burst into laughter and immediately said, I'm wrong, Coach Yin, don't do this. His right hand reached out, drawing a beautiful half arc, and and grabbed the girl's wrist, as if to stop her. Yenjika was suddenly interested. She exploded the strength of her shoulders, elbows and wrists, and accelerated to escape from Lu Cheng's grasp. She was going to apply the ointment on his mouth. How could Lu Cheng's big and small hand wrap be broken so easily? With a shake of his shoulder, he threw out his right hand to grab the girl's forearm. Yenjika bit her lower lip, eyes bright, and joined in with Lu Cheng with her left hand, practicing grappling kung fu with him. For a moment, the wind between them was fierce, and their hands were pointing at each other. It was very lively. The result was as expected. Yenjika, who had only practiced grappling kung fu slightly, was caught by Lu Cheng on both wrists. "You don't even let me." Yenjika gasped for breath and said with a righteous smile. Her oval face was flushed because of the exercise, and there was a thin layer of sweat on her forehead. "It's so interesting to play with such a hidden practice." She finished her words in a light tone, but found that Lu Cheng didn't answer. He just looked at her attentively and passionately. What are you looking at?" Her wrists were caught by Lu Cheng, and her face was stared at by him. Suddenly, Yenjika felt inexplicably flustered. Lu Cheng swallowed his saliva and said, "Ku, is the tip of your tongue also hurt?" "Yes." Yenjika's eyes flickered. "Let me help you," Lu Cheng murmured. He pulled the girl over and held her in his arms. Then he let go of her wrist and hugged her shoulder. He lowered his head and kissed her on her tender lips. Yenjika gently patted his shoulders with her hands, then closed her eyes and put her hands on his shoulders. At this moment, there was a sudden knock on the door of the locker room. Knock, knock, knock. Knock, knock, knock. Yenjika seemed to have come to her senses. She pushed Lu Cheng away, lowered her head, gasped, and quickly tidied her clothes. Lu Cheng was very annoyed and unhappy. He controlled his tone and asked in a low voice, "Who is it?" Knocking on the door at this time would incur the wrath of heaven. Outside the locker room, a pleasant female voice came in. "Lu Cheng, I'm Xu Rui, a reporter from Songqing TV station. Is it convenient for you to accept an interview?" "Not convenient." Lu Cheng wanted to answer like this, but considering the repeated warnings of the school's publicity department, and the fact that he and Yenjika had just done something bad, and were blocked in the locker room, he took a deep breath and said, "Then wait for a few minutes." He had to wait for a few minutes because his martial arts pants were too loose. Once it was pushed up, his outline would be obvious. His lower body was so distinct and outstanding now. If he walked out like this, he might lose face in front of tens of millions of people in Songqing and fans in his own forum. Then he might as well buy a piece of tofu and kill himself. "Okay." Xu Rui held back her impatience and answered. How could Lu Cheng be so slow? How long has it been? What on earth is he doing in the locker room? Wait a minute, his beautiful girlfriend didn't seem to come out. Lu Cheng calmed down and visualized the condensation stance, but his lower body was still stubborn and didn't give him any face. "I can only take a cold shower." He gritted his teeth and rushed to the bathroom cubicle with the tent. He quickly took off his clothes and turned on the tap. Yenjika, who was sitting on the bench, peeked at all this. She laughed so hard that she couldn't stand straight. She gently beat the space beside her and whispered shyly and happily, "You asked for it, you asked for it." At the same time, a sentence flashed in her mind from the internet. "Who told you to be reckless?" After the cold shower in the tent, Lu Cheng put on his clothes and glanced at Yenjika. He opened the door of the locker room and walked out. Clang. "Close the door behind you, good boy." Xu Rui held back her laughter and said, "Sorry to disturb you. The match over there is more than half done. I have to finish the interview as soon as possible." "Humph, I'm also a college girl with a boyfriend. How could I not know what you are doing?" "You don't have to be so polite. Just ask. What was done couldn't be undone." Lu Cheng's anger could only turn into deep helplessness. Xu Rui was secretly happy as if she had caught someone's weakness. She smiled and said, "Lu Cheng, the 2 punches you used to hit Mo Zitsong today seem to be very special. It was different from all the martial arts you have used before. Is it a new trump card?" "Yes." Lu Cheng answered frankly. Anyone who had watched the match carefully would have noticed this. He had nothing to hide. Shu Rui nodded with satisfaction and continued to ask, when I interviewed Mo Zizong, I found that he was still swaying and his face was blue. It seemed that he was hurt by a strong cold. Does this mean that you have mastered a unique skill of the ice sect? Not really. I've just mastered it. Lu Qing wasn't being modest. He was telling the truth. The real frost force could freeze Mo Zizong with just one punch, and cause his body to be covered with white frost for a short time. His mastery of Thunder Roar Zen and Frost Force was too fast, and his mastery was still limited to a superficial level, which was not comparable to 24 blizzard strikes. Look. His answer was so honest. If he did, he did. If he didn't, he didn't. Compared to Lu Qing, Shu Rui suddenly had the impulse to clench her fists and cry. She looked at Lu Qing with gratitude, which made him feel confused. As far as I know, even in the Danchi state, there are many shortcomings in the similar force. If you want to master it in the body refining state, and make such a strong cold, you must have a corresponding supernatural ability or special talent, right? Shu Rui followed this topic and asked again. Lu Qing smiled and said, Can I choose to keep it a secret? Let others guess what's going on with me. Shu Rui was so moved that she wanted to cry. Look at him, he was so polite about keeping it a secret. Of course you can, she answered with a faint smile, and then changed the topic to interview other things. It didn't take long for the interview to end. Lu Qing immediately waved his hand and ran into the locker room without looking back. Clang. Hearing the door of the locker room close, Shu Rui was stunned. She couldn't help but take back her handbag from the cameraman. She took out a small mirror and carefully looked at her own face. Is it because I've been staying up too late recently that my appearance has deteriorated a lot? Otherwise, why does one run away like he's hiding from a monster without saying anything unnecessary, and the other one has no tender feelings for the fairer sex? He's always expressionless. If he can use 2 words, he won't say more than 3. He often blocks her mouth with 1 sentence. As an outstanding beauty, Shu Rui could feel the kindness of society from time to time since her eyebrows and eyes grew. It didn't matter if she only bought a standing ticket on the train. Most of the time, there would be good Samaritans who would give up their seats. It didn't matter if she forgot to bring some change. The success rate of borrowing money from others was quite high. Nothing changed. Shu Rui looked at it repeatedly and made a conclusion. In the blink of an eye, she left the martial arts stadium with the cameraman in a hurry. In the locker room, Lu Qing saw that Yinjika had already packed up and was waiting for him. You're going back now? He was a little expectant. Yinjika glanced at him and suddenly said softly, You're so tired. You'd better go back and sleep for a while. You can tell? Lu Qing thought that he had successfully concealed it. It was really tiring to use Frost Force twice when he wasn't familiar with it. Of course, I'm a famous detective. Yinjika smiled and walked to Lu Qing. She raised her arms, stretched out her hands and gently massaged his temples a few times. While Lu Qing was enjoying the relief of the swelling pain, the girl suddenly tiptoed and gave him a quick peck on the mouth with her pink lips. Then Yinjika turned around and put her hands behind her back. She pretended to be normal and said, Let's go. Okay. Lu Qing unconsciously showed a smile. Back in the dormitory, Lu Qing was about to walk to the small bedroom when he suddenly heard the sound of someone rushing up the stairs. The footsteps were so familiar that he subconsciously stopped and waited. Soon the door opened. Talker, Kai Zongming walked in briskly, humming a little song. Casanova, you just came back? Lu Qing asked with a little surprise and a smile. He and Ku had been delayed for so long. Little Ming, who had left the martial arts stadium after the competition, actually came back after him? Where did he run off to? Kai Zongming laughed and said, Qing, I have a good news and a bad news. Which one do you want to hear first? The bad news. Lu Qing answered indifferently. Seeing that Talker couldn't hide his joy, the bad news couldn't be too bad. Kai Zongming laughed and said, Today I saw you beat a strong professional 9th pin fighter in the martial arts stadium with only 2 punches. I was so excited that I couldn't calm down. After the competition, I ran to the lake to do my stance training. This is good news, right? You really don't work hard without being excited. Lu Qing imitated Kai Zongming's tone and laughed. When did I not work hard? I was ravaged by the gorilla several times every day. Do you think it's easy for me? Kai Zongming retorted as if he couldn't bear to recall the past. Okay. You work hard. Lu Qing deliberately answered perfunctorily. What's the good news? Good news. Kai Zongming suddenly raised his voice. I succeeded in meditation just now. Ha 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 ha, I'm really a genius. He imitated a comic character and laughed. Lu Qing was pleasantly surprised. He walked half a circle around Kai Zongming and said, I didn't see it. You entered meditation just like that? What do you mean just like that? Kai Zongming laughed and said, a freak like you won't understand the bitterness of my months of hard work before I succeeded in meditation. No wonder he's the talker who was mentioned by his master as having some talent. When he gets serious, he's still very powerful. Lu Qing was secretly happy for his friend, but he attacked him verbally. If you had the awareness during this period of time, you would have succeeded in meditation before the winter vacation. Kai Zongming didn't mind at all. He laughed and said, Qing, a bunch of idioms are flashing in my mind. Which ones? Lu Qing asked curiously. Kai Zongming coughed and said, amaze the world with a single brilliant feat, soar to the sky, like a fish leaping over the dragon gate, like an ignorant person. A scholar who has been away for 3 days must be looked at with new eyes. How can a golden fish be a fish in a pond? Haha. Lu Qing replied. As the 4th person in the martial arts club to master meditation, before the end of this semester, I will strive for the amateur 3rd pin, and at least the amateur 2nd pin when the next semester starts. Kai Zongming thought in high spirits. He ignored Lu Qing, took out his phone, and rushed to the balcony to tell his girlfriend the good news. Good. Looking at his back, Lu Qing smiled from the bottom of his heart. I'm getting better, and so are my friends. How delightful. In next year's university martial arts competition, Talker might even be able to compete for the reserve seat. Back in the small dormitory, Lu Qing took off his clothes and lay on the bed. He chatted with Yen Zhika for a while, and was about to take a nap when suddenly a message popped up from the other side of the cloud. This was the QQ nickname of his aunt's eldest daughter, Qi Yunfei. Brother Lu Qing, are you there? Asked the other side of the cloud. Lu Qing replied with a smiley face. What's up, Fei Fei? He often chatted with his cousins on QQ, and also had a group for his brothers and sisters. Brother Lu Qing, I heard from my aunt that you joined the martial arts club in Songqing University, and you're pretty good at it? Qi Yunfei asked with a lively face. Pff, Mom's mouth. Lu Qing couldn't help but laugh. He criticized in his heart and humbly replied, it's okay. Mom didn't seem to like him practicing martial arts, and she even bragged about it to his cousins. Qi Yunfei said weakly, I have something to ask you, Brother Lu Qing. Ask. So formal. Lu Qing was stunned and replied generously, go ahead. My boyfriend doesn't want to enter high school. He wants to go to the martial arts club to learn martial arts. Brother Lu Qing, what do you think? Qi Yunfei said. What do you think? Lu Qing considered his tone and replied, it depends on whether he really likes it or just wants to avoid studying. Even if he really likes it, it depends on whether he has the perseverance and persistence. If he can do it, learning martial arts is also a good way out. As for talent, as long as he was ordinary, there was still hope for him to reach the amateur 1st pin. At that time, it wouldn't be difficult to find a middle upper level job in Xiushan and Ningxue. Qi Yunfei was silent for a while and said, he really likes it, but I can't tell whether he has the perseverance and persistence. I'm afraid he will be cheated by those unreliable martial arts clubs. Which martial arts club does he want to go to? Tell me, I'll ask someone to find out. Lu Qing replied casually. He felt that he had some connections in the Xiushan martial arts circle. Qin Rui's Gushin Martial Arts Club was one of the best in Xiushan. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.